What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 5 Chapter 131 Boom Strategy. Advertisement. After waiting for about 3 seconds, the wall of fire was still burning fiercely, making a raging sound, but no answer came.
Aizawa Shota is a little strange. Can it be said that he is still thinking about any countermeasures? Suddenly, an arm quickly protruded from the wall of fire and grabbed it towards Mr. Aizawa. I didn't run away, but with the idea of offensive? Don't look at Mr. Aizawa's relaxed look, but he didn't take it lightly. After all, the strength of Boom is comparable to that of some professional heroes. An accidental rollover is also very possible. The eyes behind the goggles stared, and then the arm stretched out and grabbed it. This feels, however, the touch that came from his hand surprised Aizawa-sensei. He was hard and inelastic, and the texture of his skin was different from that of a normal person. Moreover, the flame still did not go out. If this arm is a booming hand, the flame should have disappeared, but the signs of looking at the wall of fire are more vigorous, and there is no weakening drive. Cheated. If no weirdness is found here, Aizawa Shota will not be a teacher at Chongying, but it is too late. At the moment he was thinking about it, a hand 337 arm was stretched out again from the wall of fire, and then his face came out of the flame, with a pair of handcuffs in his hand, and he clicked Aizawa. The teacher's hand was torn when he was holding it. Stand up. The time was too short, and the weight-bearing equipment on the body made Mr. Aizawa too late to react, and he could only admit the fact that he was being handicapped. The truth of the matter is this. After releasing the wall of fire to temporarily stop Aizawa-sensei, Hung began to observe the surrounding terrain. The area where I was located was a narrow alley, but there were very few forks around. At the speed that Mr. Aizawa had just shown, there was a high probability that I could not escape. Advertisement. Then you can only use whatever is available around you. When he glanced to the side, he realized that a clothing store was open next to him. And the mannequin dummy standing at the door fell down in the fight of Gang O, and the broken arm happened to roll down in front of him. The next thing is very simple. Grab this arm with your right hand, as a blindfold to deceive Mr. Aizawa's attention, and then take the opportunity to handcuff him with handcuffs. Although it sounds simple, it is not an easy task to implement it. It can even be said to be an adventure, but Boom really can't think of any better way to pass the exam. When the quirk is unavailable, I can be said to be suppressed by Aizawa teacher in all aspects, no matter how much he is only a freshman, and Aizawa is an adult, and his strength and energy are the peak moments in life. Fortunately, the last bombing strategy was successful, and he became the last person to pass the exam. Class A students performed very well. Except for the two groups of Kirishima and Kaminari, they all passed the actual combat assessment. Of course, Masato was not included. After the boom was over, everyone took the bus and came to the entrance exam. Film training ground. What is this going to do? Is there any additional test? Yayorozu Bai walked to the forefront of the team, did not see Masato's figure, and was a little confused. There are additional tests? Does that mean I still have a chance to stay together? Hearing this joking remark, Ashido believed it to be true. After communicating with everyone just now, she found that she was the only girl in the class that failed the assessment. This made her extremely sad, so even if the news is highly likely to be false, she is also willing to believe it once. Sorry, once the final assessment is over, the results cannot be changed. Mr. Aizawa stepped out of the car last, without giving Ashido a chance, breaking her last thoughts. You came here to watch the special assessment of Igarashi. Pointing to the large screen that was slowly unfolding in front of him, Mr. Aizawa continued. This made everyone understand, CDEI, instantly. No wonder the person who didn't see Masato, it turned out that he was going to be assessed soon. Igarashi, whether in physical strength, combat effectiveness or on-the-spot adaptability, is among the best in this class. It can be said that he has been able to compete with the third-grade classmates. It is good for you to watch his assessment. I hope you can gain something from it. Advertisement. At this time, Bakugo was treated by the recovery girl and was already awake, but his body was still not able to use it. Passing the exam from All Might's hands was originally a joyful thing, but after Masato's assessment was disturbed, his mood deteriorated again. There are even special treatments. Doesn't it mean that I am inferior to him at all? Although he knew that his strength was not as good as Junta's in his heart, Bakugo's heart was blocked by such a positive announcement. As expected of Igarashi classmate, I will definitely watch it. The reactions of Legu and Bakugo were completely different. Excited, he had already taken out the notebook he was carrying, and turned to a page skillfully, which recorded all the battle records of Masato since entering the school, as well as Legu himself. He analyzed the advantages and disadvantages of quirk. Shout, what's the use of that kind of thing? The police glanced at Midori Valley, who was holding a pen in his hand. Bakugo said disdainfully, but suddenly remembered that the two were confronting each other. NS. He cursed again in his heart for a long time. Bakugo also lost his mind, and focused on the big screen. And the master of this assessment, Justice Tai, was standing on a wide street in the training ground, facing All Might, which was 20 meters away from him. How about, Igarashi boy? I only carried half of the weight. As if to show off, All Might raised his arms. The two weight-bearing devices above were mounted on his wrists, but there was no previous device on his feet. So, not only do I have to face you heads up, but the difficulty has also increased by a notch? Masada is a little speechless about the decision made by the school. Does this mean she is pitting herself? Whether it was the last strength test or the final assessment this time, she always felt that she was being targeted everywhere. There is no other way, because our teacher does not have a complete assessment of your current overall strength, so we can only determine how far you have reached in this way. Twisting a somewhat uncomfortable wrist, All Might reluctantly said that although he has already experienced a battle today, it actually did not affect him much. For this final assessment, he is the second time today. Become a muscle look. Your assessment goal is different from other students. The only condition for you to pass the assessment is to last 20 minutes in my hands. Okay, let's stop talking nonsense and get started. Chapter 132 Highly Anticipated Battle Advertisement. All Might, who quickly entered the fighting state, had a terrifying light in his eyes, staring at Masada like a tiger. It's not as unbearable as Midori Valley and Bakugo. The pure aura can no longer affect Jungtae, but seeing that the opponent has already taken an offensive posture, Jungtae also slowly lowered his center of gravity and assumed a fighting posture. Call out. With the sound of breaking through the air, All Might disappeared to the spot in an instant. Only a whirling air current on the ground proved his existence just now. It's gone. The classmates in front of the screen let out an exclamation. The camera did not capture his movements at all, and All Might seemed to disappear out of thin air on the street. In the next second, he revealed his figure again, and he had already appeared behind Masada. You know, too, Igarashi boy, I won't be merciful. Lowering his body, All Might laughed. Can you react at this speed? Texas smash. He concentrated his strength on his unpretentious fist, and then slammed it towards Masada, with fierce wind pressure, hitting Masada's body like a heavy hammer. The whirlwind swept across the street, raising a huge amount of rubble, covering the whole street in an instant. Among the various noisy sounds, one sound was particularly noticeable. Snapped. All Might is too heavy to start, right? If this punch is hit, it won't be a problem of injury. Seeing the situation caused by this punch, Green Valley anxiously yelled to Teacher Aizawa. The current All Might and the one he faced just now are obviously not of the same level. Whether it is speed or strength, they are more than one level stronger. Yayorozu Beihi Chacha's fist was just wiped. Even though he knew that Masada would not be defeated so easily, he still couldn't help but worry about him. Advertisement. Does it end this way? There was no movement in the smoke that had not cleared for a long time, and the students could not help being silent. That's right. Although Masada is strong enough compared with them, it is not enough to compare with All Might, right? All Might, which is serious in this way, can carry the two hands that passed his punch can also be counted, right? Seeing all the members of Class A who were suddenly depressed, Aizawa showed aside helplessly. So can you guys be patient? If Igarashi is really defeated so easily, will All Might be so serious? Mr. Aizawa's words hit the classmates like a shot of a heart attack. Yes, All Might is so serious and naturally because he knows that Masada will not be defeated so easily, and there is no All Might on the screen. The relaxed expression on his face seemed to be on guard. In the smoke, a red light suddenly appeared, as if power was being accumulated just before the eruption of a volcano. Swish. The hot lava flow suddenly emerged from the smoke, like small comets, shooting towards All Might. Hey, it really can't help you, Igarashi boy. When the attack hit just now, All Might knew that he hadn't hit Masada's entity. It was as if he had hit a balloon filled with water, and Masada's body immediately scattered away at the moment he hit. The sound of is also the sound of magma scattered around. When I really face it, I know how difficult this quirk is. The feeling of being burned on the fist has not subsided. Although this is only a trivial injury for All Might, when these injuries accumulate, it will also have a qualitative change. With a little bit of your feet, All Might flew upwards like a missile, and these lava flows also instantly changed their direction and flew towards the sky, chasing them. With tracking function? No, Igarashi boy should be doing it. Then just aim directly at the main body. New Hampshire smash. He folded his hands into a fist, adjusted his figure in the air, and hit the air with both arms fiercely. The air seems to have become something substantial under All Might's hands. The solid air cannon directly disperses the flow of magma, and the momentum continues downward, like a cannonball that fell from the sky just now. The position where Masada is, the smoke that is about to dissipate becomes denser. Advertisement, please ask for flowers, boom. The weight of nearly 500 caddies landed on the ground, and compared with the movement caused by the air cannon just now, it was not weak. A big pit about 3 meters deep appeared directly under All Might's feet. Igarashi boy, I know you must be okay, but if you keep using that elementalization, your physical strength will soon be unsupported, right? My attack will never stop. Now that he has escaped one of his own attacks, it is even more unlikely that Masada will be injured in the previous one, but if he passively uses elementalization to delay time, with the current ability of Masada, it is indeed impossible to maintain the elementalization of his whole body. 10 minutes. Huh? Why does it feel a little hot? Since the start of the assessment, Masada has not paid attention to All Might, which is also a performance of his concentration. All Might's call was not answered, but he suddenly found that the surrounding temperature was rising rapidly. Not good. Realizing what the problem was, All Might yelled badly in his heart. After the smoke cleared, Masada's figure was gone, and only the traces of the battle were left on the ground. Where did this magma be D go? With a fierce expression on his face, Bakugo said viciously, but no one answered him, because everyone is still in a state of confusion. The only Bakugo who has partnered with Masada is a thinking expression, as if he is a little bit enlightened. The camera has been firmly filming their battlefield from a high place, and they did not notice that Masada's shadow appeared from the smoke when they were focused. The point of shift. But soon, they understood the whole story. All Might looked at the soles of his feet with a cold sweat at this time. The magma in the big pit had begun to seep out, and the hard concrete floor seemed to have become soft. His face flushed as well. Feeling that the soles of his feet were already getting hot, All Might jumped forward without hesitation and left the big hole he created. Even if his reaction has been so quick, he was still attacked by Masada for a long time, to spread to. Boom. Long. Chapter 133 Volcano Eruption, Advertisement. All Might in the air turned his head and looked. Even if he saw such a magnificent sight, he was a little surprised. In the big pit just now, the hard ground could no longer withstand the pressure of magma, and it began to crack inch by inch, and the monstrous flames leaped from the cracks in the ground, staining the entire block red. Then, with a huge sound, dark red magma spewed out in the blanket of billowing black smoke, soaring to the sky. The huge driving force pushed the magma into the clouds, and now, even the sky was blood red, and the entire block it seems to be infested by this red. The loud rumbling sound was layered towards the surrounding layers. The ground has been dug up by magma, and it seems that endless magma is still spraying from it, and the splashing magma gives the surrounding buildings. The destruction was exhausted, and dense black smoke gradually occupied the entire 337 streets. After a while, this man-made volcano finally vented its anger, and the burning red semi-liquid rock galloped down from the sky, leaving a fiery red scratch in the air, and then it was earth-shattering again. The sound of smashed the street that was already full of sores. The people in front of the screen were completely stunned by the scene created by Masada. In their impression, this was the first time Masada used his quirk on such a large scale. Nearly half of the training ground was destroyed by this volcanic eruption. Thick smoke and flames are raging in the city. Fortunately, this is only a training ground. If this is a real city, this will be a disaster. This is simply one by one. Surprised by the destructive power of Jungtae, Kirishima's chest was a little bit painful, but now he is very grateful. It seems that Jungtae was completely indifferent when he was fighting against himself at the sports festival. Natural disaster. Boom connected with his words. Even though he had seen most of Masada's moves, he had fought alongside him in the underground passage at the time. At this time, he was still in a daze. The booming quirk is also the kind of powerful quirk with great power and wide range, but if it is changed to him, it will definitely not create such a powerful force. The only one who is not shocked is that Yaoyorozu is over 100 years old, but her expression is still relaxed now. Yaoyorozu Bake doesn't care how destructive Shanta is, she only cares if Shanta will be injured. After returning home anyway, Masada still has to eat cancer in her own hands. Advertisement. Mr. Aizawa was speechless while looking at the picture on the screen. He could only say that it was really great that Shanta was able to come to Shangying to go to school. At the beginning of school, he still remembered the scene of Shanta fighting with a huge robot. It has only been a semester. That's it, he has grown to this point. If he is drawn to the past by villains, it will definitely be a huge event for Hero's society. Disaster. Maybe I am facing him now, I only have to be abused, right? At this time, All Might at the center of the volcanic eruption, his feelings were different from everyone else. So hot, the entire area was surrounded by magma, and the volcanic eruption of the size of Gang-O did not affect him at all. Not only was he caught off guard by several magma bombs, but the high temperature continued to destroy his body functions, consume his physical strength. Being in midair, he could only keep hitting the air to avoid the stray bullets that flew from time to time, and there were only a few footholds under his feet. Jumping to the top of a billboard, All Might finally took a breath. Cough cough cough. However, he forgot that with the eruption of a volcano, all kinds of toxic gases similar to sulfur dioxide, hydrogen gas, and volcanic ash will be scattered in the air. It's uncomfortable. Covering his nose and mouth, knowing that it shouldn't stay here for long, All Might jumped again and came to a building that was still intact. All Might suffocated a sigh of breath before doing violent activity, breathing in the fresh air, standing on the edge of the roof and looking down. His vision was completely blocked by the black smoke and volcanic ash. Can't see the situation in the street. When was it done under my feet? In fact, All Might was wrong. Since the beginning of the fight, Masada has continuously produced magma under his feet, but this time he did not spread the magma above the ground, but continuously transported it under the ground through the soles of his feet. Advertisement. And when All Might launched a surprise attack, he instantly used elementalization to evade the attack, and the smog in the sky created perfect conditions for Masada. At that time, he was just like Shenmue Hospital at that time. His whole body turned into magma and lurked into the ground. Those lava flows that were shot out were nothing more than blindfolds. They were smoke bombs used to delay time and attract All Might's attention. Sure enough, seeing All Might attacking by Masada, it was natural to think that Masada was still there. Move. As everyone knows, the quirk is constantly increasing, and the range of controlling magma in the elemental state is far beyond before. When he landed, in fact, 5 or 6 meters below this street was completely filled with magma. After that, the matter is very simple. The Masada who is under the ground, feels the vibration of the ground, and controls the magma to compress to the place where All Might stands. When the pressure reaches a peak, the violent magma will naturally push away from the ground. Jet away. And now, Masada also drilled out of the ground following the magma eruption. Really a little tired, I clenched my fists, feeling the exhausted physical strength, and sighed too. The attack just now consumed a lot of his energy, but I don't know what's going on with All Might now. If the attack just didn't affect him at all, it would be more than worthwhile. According to the current scenario of 4.8, All Might should be at a high place, right? Since it is the incarnation of magma, the surrounding black smoke and the gas volcanic ash in the air have no effect on Masada. He threw the remaining magma off his body and took the clothes that he had thrown away before and put on it. Now all of Masada's clothes are specially made at a high price, and they can withstand extremely high temperatures. He is not very rich, and he can't bear to change clothes after a fight. A flashing body, using the raised footholds on the surrounding buildings, combined with the propelling force of the magma under his feet, came to a high-altitude hoist too easily, holding the steel bars with one hand to hang his body in the air, and the other put one hand over his eyes and do a look. Found it. Chapter 134 Fighting Advertisement. Although I knew that if I had been huddled in the street, I might have dragged it for 20 minutes easily, but that way of winning would be too cheap. If you let the students off the screen know what Masada thinks now, they will definitely grab Masada by the collar and teach him severely. Just being able to last 20 minutes under All Might is already a great thing. You guys are not satisfied, consider the feelings of others. Anyway, the assessment requirements didn't say that you can't let yourself destroy the building. Besides, the volcanic eruption just now has destroyed most of the surrounding buildings, so Masada now has no guilt in his heart for continuing to destroy this training ground. Released his palm, Masada quickly fell from the sky in a free-falling posture, feeling the sound of howling wind passing by her ears. Masada's legs suddenly turned into magma, and then her body stopped abruptly in midair and moved towards All Might flew over. Just like a meteor, a billowing black smoke was left in the sky. All Might was naturally aware of such a conspicuous scenery. I didn't hide, but wanted to fight me head-on? I have 23 courage, Igarashi boy. All Might, who is worried about not being able to find Masada, is naturally a joy. He will not destroy this training ground in order to find Masada. I thought that the assessment would end in a hasty way, but now it's worth seeing again. Big Spitfire. The right arm turned into a huge mass of magma out of thin air, and a huge magma arm was formed after a surge of twisting. Masada had already reached the sky above All Might at this time, and the amazing quality of the magma fist took him down towards All Might. The same trick as in the strength test, the water vapor in the air evaporates instantly, feeling the dry skin that is almost cracking, All Might thought. However, this strength is not enough. Retracting the abdomen and levator, pressing the right arm tightly on the body, All Might made a standard uppercut posture. Detroit Smash. The uppercut fist hit by the concentrated force turned out to be a nearly vacuum area in front of All Might. The rapidly rising airflow collided with the magma fist. There is no sign of defeating it, but it is being constantly consumed by this air current. Advertisement. Even if the quirk has been given to Midori Valley Izuku, the remaining power is still amazing. Feeling the continuous disappearance of the magma on his hand, Masada's face was ugly. This is a blow made with pure power, without any other bells and whistles, just using unparalleled power to defeat all obstacles it encounters. Although it is clear that All Might can definitely resolve this attack, Masada is still a little bit disappointed when he sees his attack method being defeated so easily. It's not over yet, but Masada was not a person who gave up lightly. Seeing that he hadn't made a single blow, magma surged in his left hand. After a breath, an identical huge magma fist was formed. Don't think that he usually uses his right hand when he uses a large fire breathing too much, but this does not mean that he can't use his left hand. Although the airflow wall played by All Might was strong, Nei had no entity after all, so it didn't exist for a long time. After destroying the magma on Masada's right hand, it also gradually disappeared. At this time, the next attack of Masada came again, which could be regarded as a zero-range attack. Even All Might could not completely avoid it. However, he handled this trick very cleverly. He stepped on the soles of his feet hard, and the hard roof was completely vulnerable under the power of All Might, and it was directly turned into powder and scattered. All Might was also natural. It fell directly into the hole he had stepped out, and the magma fist flew past his head with a slight difference. Masada's attack was still not over. Seeing All Might's unexpected operation, he was also stunned. He directly controlled the magma fist to explode, poured down. Smash. However, with time to react, All Might performed the same trick again and hit another uppercut. This time the scope of the impact was even greater. Not only was the magma directly blown away, but even the roof of the building was directly affected by the hurricane. Zhonghua made gravel. Obviously, the physical strength is still so old. Mineta only felt that his legs were a little weak. It was the first time he had seen such a fierce battle scene, makes him a little scared. Advertisement: if All Might also used the ability to appear when dealing with himself just now, he would not be able to survive the first round at all. Then in his hands like this, he can persist for 15 minutes, and even fight back and forth. How strong is Masada? If Igarashi has no other means, he is likely to lose. This is too exaggerated. How far is I from him? Although the battle looks fierce, if you look at it this way, Masada is very likely to pass the level. Nani. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. The unwillingness in Bakugo's heart was already out there, and his body seemed to be covered with a black mist. Once again, he said something that he didn't understand, and Mr. Aizawa raised his eyes and leaned against the wall. Unknowingly, Bakugo seemed to have been overwhelmed by Masada's strength. Now he was only considering the distance between the two, instead of always crying out to defeat Masada as before. The elementalized Masada naturally doesn't care about this height. When they are about 10 meters away from the ground, the magma of the double fists erupts violently underneath, and then the speed of falling suddenly decreases, and finally Masada falls directly into the magma pool on the ground. The voice is not small, so all the students in Class A heard what Mr. Aizawa said. Hearing Yaoyorozu's murmur, Aizawa-sensei glanced at her and said indifferently, "Let's take a good look. All Might's strength is not only that, it is not without reason that he has been called #1 for so many years. Isn't this the strongest strength of All Might?" In a hurry, Masada jumped directly from the top of the building. It was too difficult to fight All Might in this kind of place. He still had to return to the ground. The ground was his home court. Yaoyorozu stood behind and analyzed. 15 minutes have passed at this time. 340, that is. If All Might can solve Masada within 5 minutes, then he is qualified. Chapter 135. Powerful All Might advertisement. Igarashi boy should be around here. Instead of jumping from the top of the building, All Might chose to take the stairs down, pushed open the door of the building, and looked at the endless lava river on the street. I just don't know where I hid it, but the magma on the ground is too much of a hindrance. There is no place for oneself on the road, which makes All Might a little difficult. Smash. Still the same, All Might punched out, and the magma on the ground was pushed away by the huge wind in an instant, exposing the eroded ground below. Looking at the street that had been cleared, All Might tentatively stepped on the ground, and found that it was not a major problem except that the temperature was a bit high. According to his temperament, he should take the initiative to find me, then I will wait here. Without worrying that Masada would hide in the corner and delay time, All Might stood on the street so carelessly, as if his whole body was showing flaws. Flying fire shooting star. Suddenly, All Might heard a loud roar from above his head. It turned out that Masada jumped off the roof of a storefront, with lava surging on her arms, and ran towards herself. In the process of running, lava spheres quickly formed on Masada's fist, and then shot out under his power and the impetus of magma. For a while, All Might's eyes seemed to have only fire red. Call out. As at the beginning of the assessment, All Might suddenly disappeared from the same place. The target of the attack suddenly disappeared, and she was conditioned to throw a punch behind her. Sure enough, All Might's fist was already in view, and it was constantly magnifying. Boom. Elementalization in time, Masada once again avoided All Might's powerful punch, but his attack was also unsuccessful because of the elementalization. Unexpectedly not hurt. After regrouping into the body, looking at All Might's unharmed fist, I was too stunned. Advertisement. Just now he clearly watched All Might's fist hit his body that turned into magma. It should be burned by the magma. How could there be nothing at all? Seeing the doubt in Masada's eyes, All Might raised his arm. As long as I punch fast enough, then the fist wind can protect my fist from your quirk. Quote. This kind of action is easy for me. On the contrary, you Igarashi boy, how many times can you elementize? Having said this, a wise light appeared in All Might's eyes, flashed once again, and disappeared in place. Call. At the moment when the opponent disappeared, Masada made his body elemental, and in the next moment, the magma himself was knocked out. All Might's attack has no tactics at all. It is completely suppressed in strength and speed. Such villains are actually the most tricky. Because he has no weaknesses at all, and every aspect is overwhelmingly strong. If this goes on, I will lose. Turning into an entity again, Masada's face was a bit ugly. He knows the limits of his quirk best. From the beginning of the assessment to the present, Masada is almost always in a state of elementalization, not only creating volcanic eruptions, but also using elementalization to propel himself in the air and avoid All Might attacks. The difference here is only the whole body elements. That's all about the transformation and partial elementalization. The Masada at this time has run out of physical strength. However, All Might's attacks continued like a wave, and he didn't give Masada a chance to breathe at all. Whenever he just gathered his body, he would dodge in front of him again, and then punch Masada again. Scattered. The situation seems to be a dead end. But the spectators off the field don't think so. Although they know the disadvantages of elementalization, they don't have a concept of Masada's physical reserve. Therefore, in their eyes, the scene of the game is like this. Jingtai is really amazing. He was unscathed in a fast attack like All Might. With admiration on Ida's face, it was the first time he saw All Might so seriously.
Yaoyorozu 100, do you think Masada will defeat All Might? According to the current situation, I think it is very possible. Naive Cha-Cha has obviously become a fan of Masada's brains. At this time, she thought that Masada could defeat All Might head-on, and the red face showed the excitement of the owner. Yaoyorozu Bai is actually a little confused. Although she knows that Masada's strength is very strong, it is time for her concept of Masada's strength to be a sports festival. No one knows All Might in the field. Advertisement. Mr. Aizawa's eyes also opened, with a hint of surprise. The trick he thought Masada turned into magma must be used as killer copper, so the number of times he can use it will definitely not be many, but the battle just now broke his concept. Heaven dog. At this point, there are still 3 minutes before the end of the assessment. Pulling a steel bar with a large piece of concrete from the ground, All Might held the temporary weapon and threw it towards Masada. Really tenacious, Igarashi boy. You should be almost at your limit. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. The temperature is very hard to connect. Click. Using elementalization to avoid attacks is just drinking poison to quench thirst, and consumes one's energy in vain. It is better to save some energy to fight to the death. So eat this trick. Seeing Masada, who was out of breath, All Might stopped attacking and said from the ground that the relaxed tone and the smile that remained unchanged forever formed a strong contrast with Masada's appearance. Unlike the past, Masada turned bright red when the two hands were the same, okay, this time, and the color was gradually becoming bright and dazzling. After completing his strongest move, Masada placed his 2 arms with white smoke in front of him, and he rushed to the past with a kick of his feet. It's really a monster, but I won't hide it anymore. Before the Masada person arrived, the air in front of All Might was distorted by the high temperature, and he had also heard of the destructive power of this trick, but he was able to punch Nomu through the minister. The hard steel bar was directly interrupted under the high temperature and huge force, and Masada also grabbed the broken piece and threw it fiercely. The steel bar took All Might's chest like a javelin. I still underestimate the kid, I don't know if All Might can let him bring us even bigger surprises. Quote. There was no sound, Masada's fist melted the concrete directly, and then hit the steel bars. I don't know how many times I was beaten into the air, but I was too gasping to stand up again. Chapter 136 Lava Burst Punch. Advertisement. Only. Seeing the flying attack, All Might didn't panic at all. He swung the steel bar in his hand horizontally to resolve the attack. Of course, the steel bar in his hand was completely scrapped. There is a flaw. At this time, the grandma who had rushed to him, saw All Might reveal a neutral position, and became excited. A leaning and sliding step came to his side, and then aimed at his waist and hit it. Unfortunately, this was deliberately revealed to confuse you. However, Zhang was still hot, and Masada could see the flaws. It was because All Might showed him the flaws. Facing Masada's blow, All Might's arm was swept horizontally, and Masada hit him. Before, I hit Masada in the stomach first. Vomit. Just like Bakugo, it was uncomfortable to get a heavy blow to the stomach, and she was thrown away severely, knocking a hole through a wall on the side. Boom. Then, a shocking explosion occurred from the place that was lying down too much, naturally because the dog in his hand couldn't sustain it and burst open. Cough cough cough, this hit is really cruel. Although a little uncomfortable, Masada quickly stood up. Even if my attack power is strong, but I can't hit him at 340. When encountering such a situation for the first time, Masada expressed very aggrieved. In the past, villains, except Allforone, were basically inferior to their own in terms of speed, so they could rely on their tremendous destructive power to fight against others, but this time they encountered a problem. It would be great if my speed could be faster. Thinking so in her heart, Masada rushed to All Might again. Clearly knowing that it is not my opponent behind me, do you still have to rush forward? This is not a sensible approach, Igarashi boy. Seeing Masada behaving like above, All Might shook his head in his heart. In his opinion, hiding and fighting him in a sneak attack is the best way. If you don't try, how can you know how many caddies you have? If you shrink here, then I may not be able to surpass you for the rest of my life. With a smile on his face, he was running too fast beside All Might, and the speed seemed to create a ghost. Advertisement. The speed is faster than before. Masada himself might not have noticed it, but All Might found that his movements were faster than half a minute ago. CDEI, does it really deserve to be called a genius? It turned out to be stronger in the battle again. Then let me be this whetstone to make you sharper, Igarashi boy. With this thought, All Might slammed into a ghost of Masada. Found it. Unexpectedly, it was so easy to be seen through, Masada also gave up, clenched his fist and punched it up. Heaven dog. The power may not be maximized when used in a hurry, but this is still the strongest move of Masada monomer. Cruel, All Might didn't keep his hands, and his already sturdy right arm swelled again. Texas smash. 2 fists, one big and one small, collided together. The fiery red lava and the white air flow met together. The fist colliding produced the energy that seemed to divide the ground in half. These two people actually fisted. Hiroshima yelled in excitement. In his heart, this is a real man's way of fighting, as long as he breaks all obstacles in front of him with his fists. Justice. Yaoyorozu hundreds saw this scene, but was anxious. All Might is so powerful, can Masada's fist be able to resist it? Just when everyone was staring at the screen intently, the result of the fight came out. Masada was beaten out without any suspense. But this time he didn't get hit into the wall like a cannonball. Instead, he successfully adjusted his body shape in midair, and dropped his feet on the ground accurately. The whole hand is shaking. Seeing his unstoppable trembling left hand, Jung was too helpless. Just a fight, his fist lost its combat effectiveness for a short time. The title of a symbol of peace deserves its name. Advertisement. But my real ultimate move is yet to come. With a confident smile, Masada stomped the ground, and the surrounding area instantly turned into a magma pool, leaving only a foothold at the feet of All Might. When this trick is used up, my stamina should be completely exhausted. It's all about success or failure. The body slowly sinks into the magma, Masada's eyes are full of firmness. Although I don't understand what Junta's strategy is, All Might is standing there waiting for this. This is absolute confidence in his own strength. The blow just now made him feel too well. The epidermis on his hand had turned into fly ash, exposing the muscle tissue underneath. This was still the result of the protection of the fist wind. Feeling the throbbing from time to time in his hands, All Might lifted his spirits and looked around. He has been using quirk for a long time today and is already a little tired. The magma in front of him suddenly surged, and a human-shaped magma body appeared behind All Might so quietly, slowly extending his arms towards All Might. The sneaky is the Igarashi boy who can't beat me. However, All Might was very keen, with wind in his fist, and turned around with a sharp buckle to break up the magma. Lava burst punch. Just as All Might turned around, another magma-shaped figure appeared where he was facing before, and this time, the magma quickly condensed into the entity of Masada. With his right fist clenched, circles of magma swirled around it rapidly. It was the trick that was inspired by Kirishima's words and was completed at this time. What? The strangeness behind him surprised All Might. This time, he was really in the way of Masada. He didn't expect that he would control a part of the magma to lure himself into action, and then the main body would take the opportunity to launch an attack. This is also really impossible. In frontal combat, Masada can't capture the speed of All Might at all. He can only sneak attack by using the instant rigid state of his shot. All Might is now full of old power. New power is not born. He has no time to evade. He can only block his arm on the attack line of Masada's fist to resist this attack. Vo-ohm. Quote. A mushroom cloud suddenly formed between the two. The explosive power of magma, coupled with the destructive power brought by high-speed rotation, this is not a calculation problem of 1 + 1 = 2, but the power increases exponentially. However, since Masada used this trick for the first time, it was not very stable. After hitting All Might, it disappeared without exerting all its power, and Masada was also blown up in this explosion. Flew out and fell to the ground. This time he really didn't have the strength to stand up anymore. Chapter 137 Injured All Might. Advertisement. Time up. At the moment when Masaru flew out, Mr. Aizawa's voice rang from the broadcast in the training ground. Igarashi passed the exam. Oh. The students in the monitoring room all made cheers. Whether it was Masada's last unexpected attack or the strength he showed in this assessment, everyone in Class A was excited. The Masada who fell on the ground also heard the sound that resounded through the audience, and smiled with satisfaction. All Might stood on the spot and retracted the arm that had resisted Masada's attack just now. His iconic smile was still hanging on the corner of his mouth. His upright posture was like an indestructible iron tower, as if Masada's attack was useless. Now that the assessment is over, then I will leave first, Igarashi boy. In a sprinting posture, All Might took the exhaust gas all the way, and instantly left the training ground and disappeared into everyone's field of vision, leaving only a word in the wind, drifting away. This won't help me up again, go. Masada was a little speechless, so she just threw a wounded person on the ground and left without paying any attention. She was really hard-hearted. But he also understands All Might's difficulties. It is very likely that the time to transform is up. Because it is live broadcast, he has to avoid it in advance. Because of the hidden quirk, some physical strength has been recovered in the body, and he is too supportive from the ground, and slowly walks to the monitoring room outside the training ground to find a recovery girl. All Might at this time. Cough, cough, cough. Running to a dark corner, All Might couldn't help it anymore, covered his mouth and spewed blood out. Have you grown to this point? It doesn't take long before I can retire with peace of mind. Putting the arm that resisted the last lava burst fist of Masada across his chest, All Might murmured. I saw that the combat uniform on this arm had been completely damaged, and the flesh and blood on it was also blurred into a piece, as if it had become muddy, exposing the white hand bones inside. To be honest, if it weren't for All Might to explode ONEFORALL's power to offset the power of that punch at the last moment, maybe this arm would be blown to pieces, but even so, it was already seriously injured. Although the blood can't stop flowing down, All Might's heart is happy and gratified. The new generation of young people has grown up. Villains, are you ready? Advertisement. The final exam, which made everyone fearful, finally came to an end. Not qualified. When everyone comes back, remember to tell me about the fun of staying together. Take my share of happiness and enjoy it. Early the next morning, the Masada who came to the classroom saw Kaminari and Kirishima hugging each other and shouting. Don't be so pessimistic. In fact, I am also very suspicious. At the beginning of the battle, I was killed by the Midnight Teacher. It was completely dependent on Mineta to pass. Maybe I am not qualified. Setro leaned on the chair to comfort them, and the best way to comfort a person was to use a deed that was more tragic than them. Oh, Masada is here. Sharp-eyed Ashido glanced at Masada and immediately shouted excitedly. Masada, you were really super handsome yesterday. You almost ruined the entire training ground. You don't know the expression of Teacher Cement Man at that time. Kirishima also surrounded him. Yesterday he was trapped in the cement wall by Mr. Cement Man and couldn't get out, so he was very happy to see him eat cancer. Because of the quirk, almost all the repair work of the training ground is completed by the Cement Man teacher, so the difficulty and time required for the repair of such a large training ground is also self-evident. You are stronger again. After sitting in his position, he uttered a word with no expression on his face, and stopped speaking. In the battle yesterday, all the classmates in the class became stronger for all to see, and he also had a sense of crisis. Hurry back to your seat, the bell has already rang. When everyone was in a quarrel, Aizawa teacher walked to the podium holding a stack of test papers. Regarding the final exam this time, it is a pity that some people did not pass. So about the question of the summer stay together. Everyone in the audience held their breath, and the crucial moment was finally coming. Participate in the whole class. Everyone performed very well in the exams. Besides, summer dorms are meant to strengthen the dorms. Therefore, students who fail to pass must use this precious opportunity to find ways to increase their strength. For flowers. This is the so-called reasonable hypocrisy. Long live Mrs. Aizawa. Advertisement. I can even participate. Oh. The 4 people who failed in the actual combat assessment immediately yelled happily after hearing Aizawa's words. Everyone passed the written test this time, but Kaminari, Ashido, Kirishima, Sato, and Siro failed in the actual combat test. Sure enough, I still didn't pass the level in the end. Siro scratched his hair and said embarrassingly. He didn't expect his worry to be fulfilled so soon. Don't mind, Siro, anyway, I can go to the hostel together. Point 0. Kirishima, who was sitting next to him, put his arm around his neck and said indifferently. To tell you the truth, failing means failing. The school has already prepared cram time for you in other ways. It is definitely 100 times more terrifying than staying in the school for cram. However, Aizawa-sensei's next words blasted them from the peak of happiness into the abyss. All 5 of them looked at him with despair. Not only did they have to train but also tutor, this is simply hell. From tomorrow, the school will give you a 1-week vacation. After the vacation is over, you will come to the school to gather and go to the summer residence. Well, if there are no doubts, then I will study by myself. After explaining some things that need attention, Mr. Aizawa handed out the handbook and test papers for the forest house, and then left the classroom. Well, anyway, it's still a happy thing to be able to go together anyway. As soon as the teacher left, the atmosphere in the class became active again. How will everyone arrange this week? Putting his feet on the desk comfortably, Masada asked, tilting his chair. I'm going to the hospital. Of course I was watching a small movie at home. Trembling. It's up to you what I want to do. Although the answers are different, everyone seems to have a clear idea, thinking too much that there seems to be nothing wrong with themselves. Why don't you go out and relax for a while? Chapter 138 On Vacation. Advertisement. Thinking in his heart, Masaru turned his head and asked about Yaoyorozu 100. The country. Are you trying to relax? Why not go to Okinawa? The wise Yaoyorozu saw through the thoughts in Masada's mind at a glance and put forward his own opinions. It just so happens that my family has a beach villa in Okinawa, so let's just live there. As expected to be a wealthy daughter, Yaoyorozu is 100, and what he says is different. Although I felt a little suspicion of eating soft rice, Masada readily agreed, and he was very confident in his future. TNT together. Seeing Masada nodding, Yaoyorozu also enthusiastically invited Cha-Cha to go on vacation. Cha-Cha had nothing to do, so naturally he nodded happily. Huh, Okinawa. I want to go too. Suddenly, Yi Yin sprang out from the side with 3-4 zeros. Although she couldn't see her expression, she was very excited when she heard her tone. What? Yaoyorozu is going to Okinawa for vacation. The girls in the class became excited when they heard Yi Yin's yelling, and they all gathered here. Then why don't we all go together? Seeing that the students in the class were very interested, Yaoyorozu was lucky enough to suggest that anyway, the villa is very large, and it is not a problem at all to have more people, and it would be happier to come and play with the people in the class. Awesome. Yaoyorozu, I love you so much. Mina jumped directly on her body, expressing her inner excitement, and the movement of the girls here is so big that the boys naturally noticed it. I want to go too. Seeing the girls making a fuss, Mineta's mind was only left with the beach and swimsuits, and the corners of her mouth gradually drooled. Stupid. Didn't you even invite you without seeing others? Kaminari stood behind him and slammed a hand knife on his head, interrupting his unrealistic delusion. No matter how you look at a girl's party like this, it won't bring a hungry ghost in S***X. The rest of the boys are also very sensible, and they are not without things to do. Hiroshima and Siro lost in this exam and want to make good use of this week to exercise themselves. Sato wants to develop new desserts. Kaminari also wants to think about themselves the development direction of quirk. Advertisement. Damn it, Zhang Mu. Seeing that no one had the same opinion as his own, Mineta was very upset. He took another look at Masada, who was there with an indifferent expression, and there seemed to be blood and tears in his eyes again. Really a winner in life. Then we will gather at my house tomorrow and fly over there. The eldest sister Yaoyorozu made a final decision and set the time. How about going shopping together after school today? You want to buy sunscreen, swimsuits and a lot of things. Seeing Yi Yin jumping up and down in excitement, Masada asked very puzzledly, it doesn't matter if you get tanned. Why buy sunscreen? No one knew what Yi Yin looked like, let alone the black and white of his skin. Jung said that he didn't understand the psychology of girls. That's really hurtful. Yi Yin, who seemed to cross his waist, explained to Jung Tai in a popular science tone, girls' skin is very delicate. Sunscreen is not only for whitening, but also to prevent skin from getting sunburned. Yes, that's right, the sun on the beach is poisonous. Really, it looks like a straight man thinking. In an instant, Masada was condemned by all the girls, and she could only apologize again and again. Although he had seen Yaoyorozu buy Hei Cha-Cha to maintain the skin at home, he really didn't understand it carefully. If you are shopping, let's go together. There are a lot of things to buy when we are staying together during the summer vacation. Forcibly change the subject, Masada said to the boy on the other side of the class. Oh, good idea. It seems that this is the first time our class has organized this kind of activity, right? Bakugo, you go together too. The ghost is going. It's troublesome. I want to buy a night vision goggles. In this way, in a cheerful atmosphere, it's time for school. Except for Bakugo and Bang, everyone in Class A greeted their families after school and came to this place called Muya District Shopping Center. Advertisement. This place is the forefront of fashion and is famous for having a large number of shops. Masada has also heard of it many times, but this is the first time he has come here in person. I feel that my choice disorder is about to be committed. Looking at the dazzling array of merchandise around, the reasonable Masada is a bit horrible, but Yaoyorozu Baihei Cha-Cha next to Yaoyorozu has his eyes bright, and it is obvious that the desire to shop has been aroused. Masada has always been curious about why Yaoyorozu still needs to buy things, and it seems that he still enjoys shopping in the mall. Based on her mastery of quirk, ordinary things can be made by herself, and Masada has also asked about it, but every time she gets prevaricated on the grounds of promoting GDP growth. Sure enough, let's go have a big meal. Masada put forward a suggestion, which also got everyone's approval, and soon disappeared in the crowd. I looked around and found that he was alone, and Masada couldn't help feeling a little desolate. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. But Masada was left in place. Maybe this is the passive skill that every woman hides. I want to buy a pair of outdoor shoes. Standing in the middle of the square on the first floor, everyone said what they wanted to buy, and there were all kinds of things. The reason is that Yaoyorozu was invited by Jiro to buy some 4.8 women's underwear. Of course, Cha-Cha also went with her. The shy girls were still very sensitive to these things, so they abandoned him decisively. Then what should I buy? Finally, seeing the various dishes displayed on the back of the shopping guide, Masada made a decision. See if the things that everyone wants to buy are different, then set a good time for the gathering and act separately. So Ojiro and Shoji are not worried about not being able to buy suitable clothes here. Meet here in 2 hours. Holding the shopping guide in her hand and looking at it for a long time, Masada didn't think that she was lacking anything. The clothes are all special. They also have swimsuits at home, and decorations are even more unnecessary. Maybe they just bought them the next day. Was thrown in the corner and forgotten. Where can I buy an unlocking suit and a small drill? He was once a king. The business in the shopping plaza is very good. There are densely packed people everywhere, and there are many people with weird shapes walking around. I think that because of the birth of quirk, almost all the clothes selling points are equipped with tailors to satisfy those who have body mutations. Guests. Chapter 139 Conversation with Dead Wood. Advertisement. Good to eat. At this time, Masada was holding a large bowl of ice cream for 5 people, and was eating it in large mouthfuls. No wonder Bai likes sweets so much, sweets are really delicious. In the early days, in order to maintain reasonable nutrition for the body, Masada had a taste of these desserts, but as his understanding of his own genetic enhancement quirk became deeper and deeper, he found that whatever he eats can be converted into energy needed by the body. Green Valley. Wandering aimlessly, just after a corner, I suddenly saw the familiar green figure in a store, seeming to be picking something. Curious about what he was buying, Masada walked into the store. Hey, what are you buying? Iida isn't with you. He patted Green Valley with his back to him, and asked too suspiciously. Iida said he was going to buy his favorite orange water, so he left first. I wanted to buy a pair of shoes. While talking, Lu Jiyu looked down at his red shoes. Speaking of which, he still really liked these shoes. Masada almost never saw him change them. That's fine, after you have finished buying, I will ask you to have something to eat. There are still many shops on this floor that have not been eaten, so I will try it later. After finally finding a companion, I was so enthusiastically invited. Lugu, who hasn't eaten anything since school, also feels a little hungry at 23. After picking up the shoes and paying the bill, the two came to the entrance of a snack bar. Oden, takoyaki, donuts, so many things. It's really hard to choose. Looking at the dazzling array of snacks on the menu, Lugu was a little at a loss. Boss, 2 copies of everything on this. Masada's difficulty in choosing food does not include food. He who eats a lot of food is always willing to come. Jingtai, your appetite is still as good as ever. Lugu couldn't help but slip a drop of cold sweat on his forehead when he heard Masada's words. If so many things are replaced by him, 3 people can't finish it. After the boss prepared the food, the two picked up the plates and went to the seats at the entrance of the snack bar to sit down and chat while eating. During this period of time, there has been a lot of progress. Green Valley, you can already use ONEFORALL's power initially. Advertisement. I stuffed a donut into my mouth, just talking too vaguely. Don't say so loud. In fact, this was also realized during the on-site internship. Now it is more familiar and practiced. Discussing his quirk in public places made Lugu a little nervous, and quickly reminded Zheng Tai in a low voice. Wow, isn't this a student of Xiangying? What a lucky one. Sign me. Just when it was too difficult to swallow the donuts and wanted to answer Lugu, a man with a hood suddenly walked over and sat down beside Lugu, holding him by his side. Shoulder. This slightly familiar voice made Masada's eyes stunned and focused on the face of the man with the hood. The next moment he widened his eyes and stood up. What's the matter? Because of the sports festival, Lugu has become accustomed to being recognized by passers-by. He thought it was just a more enthusiastic fan, but he was shocked when he saw Masada's reaction. But the next moment he was speechless, because he felt 4 cold fingers on his neck. Dead handle wood. Are you brave enough? You still dare to walk on the road so openly? Although he didn't wear that disgusting palm on his face, whether it was the withered hair color or the sunken eye sockets, Masada recognized him at a glance. Tamura Shigaraki. Only then did Lugu know who the person living upstairs was. He moved his neck slightly, turned his eyes to his side, and recognized it. I am here only by chance. You should treat me as an unrelated passerby. Shigemu hated Masada, but he didn't even do it directly this time. Oh, you are not afraid that I will kill you here. Or do you think you will be my opponent? Masada's complexion turned dark when he heard the words of Shibanemu. He wanted to go up and knock Shibanemu away with a punch, but he also had to take care of Lugu's life. Although I really want to kill you here, but I am not sure about facing you alone, so didn't I still kidnap your friend? At the moment when all my 5 fingers touched his neck, the skin in his throat will collapse and he will breathe in a few seconds. How about it? Do you want to try which one of us is fast? The expression in his eyes changed several times, and the expression on Masada's face was constantly distorted. Advertisement. Finally, he sighed heavily. He was not sure if what Shiba-mu said was true, and he was really not sure if it was true. Let's talk about it. What the hell are you coming to us for? The A returned to the chair, and Jung said helplessly, he didn't believe that Shiba-mu kindly came to him for dinner. It's really a coincidence that I met you this time, but now that I met, let's talk about it. The 4 fingers kept flapping on Lugu's neck one by one, apparently still guarding Masada. I am very surprised recently. Why, it was me who attacked Xiangying and Hosu City, but everyone's eyes were attracted by the hero's killer. Speaking of the hero's assassin, Shigeomu's expression is a bit hideous, and the speed of his fingers is faster. Why hasn't anyone noticed my feet? Why have all my things been taken over by the media? I and him are obviously doing the same thing. They are all destroying things that I don't like. Why? Hearing these words like a child splattering, he squinted his eyes too much. You don't use hero's assassin. You just want to destroy it, but hero's assassin has his own beliefs, even if this belief is wrong, but there are still some assholes who will understand him. The two of you are fundamentally different. Yes, facing the hero's killer, I can understand the twisted thoughts in his heart, but for you, all I feel is crazy. At this time, Lugu also said that his own life is still in the hands of the other party, and this courage is admirable. So that's it, so I'm all connected, and I finally understand why it's upset. After hearing the words of the two, Shibanemu seemed to have figured out something, and a sickly smile appeared on his face. It turned out to be All Might. As long as the silly smile on All Might's face is gone, everything will be better. It's great to chat with you. Great. Thank you Igarashi, Midori Valley. After a burst of ecstasy, Shigemu gradually calmed his mind. Now I will leave here immediately, but you don't want to catch me. When I am caught by you, Kurogiri will release Nomu. In such a crowded area, even if you are strong, you can save a few people. Woolen cloth. Looking towards Masada, Shijingmu stood up with a confident face, and put his hands in his pockets. His remarks really made Masada somewhat afraid to act rashly. If Nomu were released here, even if he restrained them, he would have to destroy a lot of buildings, not to mention how many people would be injured. Next time I meet, I will kill you all. Pulling the brim of the hood down, the Deadwood squeezed into the crowd and disappeared in the eyes of the two. Chapter 140 Airplane Trivia. Advertisement. What happened in the evening yesterday was no more. Masada was just a ward called All Might, and didn't tell the rest of the class. That would only make everyone scared. Today is the day everyone goes to Okinawa. No matter how many times I see it, I think Yaoyorozu's home is very spectacular. It's like a scenic spot. Yi Yin, Ashido, Jiro and Asui were sitting in the living room chatting and discussing. Let everyone wait a long time, let's hurry up. They didn't let them wait long, and soon Masada walked downstairs with Yaoyorozu and Cha-Cha. Because of an appointment to gather here today, the three of them also stayed at Yaoyorozu's home last night. Speaking of which, how are we going to get there? Have the plane tickets been booked? From Tokyo to Okinawa, you can make airplanes or ships, but several people who want to start their vacation life early have chosen airplanes. We'll go to the airport later, where a private jet will take us over. She is very understatement, really like the perfect lady in the TV series. After getting on a rented bus, a few people arrived at the airport and boarded the plane that had been on standby since yesterday and headed to Okinawa. The journey takes about 3 hours, because there is only one boy, and I can't participate in the topic of girls. In addition, I helped Yaoyorozu Baihei Cha-Cha to organize things last night. I slept late, so he squinted in a chair. With eyes closed, I want to take this opportunity to nurture my spirit. Advertisement. The girls who chatted for a while felt that some of them were not topical, but there was no sleepiness at all, so they decided to play some small games to amuse the time. So there was the following scene. Don't be delusional, you can't get it. I don't know who suggested it, they started to play the ghost game. Turning the 2 rows of seats, the 6 girls formed a circle and enjoyed themselves. At this time, Cha-Cha widened her already big eyes, and looked at the cards in her hand without blinking, because there is a penalty for failure. This made Bye immediately dumbfounded, holding the pen and shaking his head frantically. If Masada knew that he was the first to take the lead in painting, God would know if he would continue to do to himself that night. Although Masada is the monitor of the class, she has always been very approachable in the class, and she often fights with her classmates, so there is no barrier between the classmates and him. It's just for fun. And our faces are all painted, of course he has to be painted too, wouldn't it be unfair? Hey, quote. By the way, Yi Yin's face can even leave a mark, a black mark just hovering in the air. It makes people feel that there is a sense of contradiction and harmony. Although the girls were a little noisy when they played, because they were all beautiful girls, Masada didn't care at all. In the confusion, the surrounding sounds seemed to disappear, and it seemed that the cabin suddenly became quiet. Yi Yin didn't think it was too small, so he was frantically booing, and he pulled up Jiro and Asui who were watching the show. The eyes of the 3 of them looking at Yaoyorozu became dangerous in an instant. Advertisement. That's not good, Yaoyorozu said, holding Leian's hand, feeling a little bewildered. Who knew that Ashido Jingran put the pen directly into Yaoyorozu's hand, and pushed her to get her to the forefront. 5 bars have been drawn on her face, like a straight character, and the other girls' faces have also been more or less left behind. If you don't, we'll get on you. This also makes these girls bolder. Yi Yin poked Masada's arm and found that the other party did not react at all. Yaoyorozu glanced at his classmate who was staring at him, then turned around to look at the sleeping Jungmao, carefully walked forward with his eyes closed, pointed the marker at his face, and drew a circle. Really fell asleep. The nose twitched, rubbed his nose, and he leaned too far to go back to sleep. Ashido with a smirk on his face took out the marker and kept persuading Yaoyorozu 100, and Yaoyorozu 100 thought about it as if it was just a trivial joke. Lee Jung-tae's character would definitely not care. Come on, you go to court first. Chapter 141 Vacation Spot. Advertisement. The seats were arranged, and she was sitting near the door of the car, next to Cha-Cha and Mina. The car quickly started and merged into the traffic. After driving for about 20 minutes, the car stopped in front of a seaside villa. It's so beautiful. Ashido and Mina, who are always happy about gossip, got together and discussed in a low voice. Car a total of 2 rows of seats, with the co-pilot, just to sit down and 7. Acting as the driver's housekeeper, I was also a step ahead of everyone, and came to the door of the villa and saluted gently. Advertisement. Since Mina is coming to Okinawa for the first time, she is full of curiosity about everything. It's so rare. This is really a scene only in TV series. It was the first time to receive such a formal hospitality. Everyone had a good experience of the feeling of a rich family. After greeting politely, they walked into the villa under the hospitality of the housekeeper. The plane descended slowly, and the blue sea and golden beach outside the window all reminded Masada and his party that Okinawa had arrived. It's like coming to a castle in Europe. Masada originally wanted to sit in the passenger seat, but as soon as he opened the car door, Yaoyorozu rushed into the car like a gust of wind, and then slammed the door closed and shut. Advertisement. The lobby is very spacious and bright. There is a large crystal chandelier above the head. The floor is covered with soft carpets. It is gorgeous and yet yuga. In addition, there are soft leather sofas, huge floor-to-ceiling windows and rich European style. Fireplace. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. After the plane, Yaoyorozu 100 family housekeeper has been waiting a long time at the airport exit. We will send the luggage special luggage car. He led the students came up to an extended version of the sedan. The luggage is already on the second floor. Everyone can live together or live separately. The room is definitely sufficient. The villa is surrounded by a fence, and there is a small yard inside, planted with many colorful flowers, and there are crystal water droplets rolling on the petals. It should be just watered. Good noon. Welcome Miss Baha Million and all of Shangying's classmates to take guests here. Chapter 142 Beautiful Sea. Advertisement. It was noon. Although Mina couldn't wait to go to the seaside to play, but was rejected by everyone, because the problem of lunch must be solved first. However, everyone did not go to the surrounding restaurants to eat, because the butler had already hired a chef and prepared a sumptuous meal for everyone. Looking at the sumptuous lunch in the restaurant, Asui sighed his lips, and said with some embarrassment, Yaoyorozu 100, don't help us prepare dinner at night, we will solve it by ourselves. Hearing Asui's voice, the other girls nodded one after another. To play with sand is to build castles with sand, or bury people in the sand. The beach at the entrance of the villa is not very big. It is a crescent shaped surrounding the sea. On both sides are rugged reefs. The fresh sea breeze blows from the sea, setting off blue waves, slaps on the beach and reefs, and breaks into dots. Asui shook his head quickly, and said embarrassingly, we will go to a nearby restaurant to eat dinner by ourselves, and we don't need to prepare special meals for us anymore. Advertisement. Then he sat on the sofa and waited, drinking the herbal tea that the housekeeper had made before, and blowing the air conditioning wind slowly. To be honest, the Masada didn't want to go out. Masada's words are very simple, so he walked down less than 5 minutes after going upstairs. Yaoyorozu was shocked when he heard this. Are you going to grill it yourself? That's okay, I'll ask the housekeeper to buy it for us right away. Masada also swam in the sea for a while, but soon became a little tired. Although Yaoyorozu invited everyone over for a vacation this time, they were embarrassed to stay for nothing. These things may not be a big deal to Yaoyorozu, but they still feel sorry for them. I heard Yaoyorozu said that this beach is her private beach, so there is no one else besides them. After lunch, everyone went back to their rooms and changed their clothes. After all, when I came to the beach, I must go out and have a good time. It's hard to justify staying in the house. Advertisement. It is of course not necessary to say much about playing in the water. It is July. Swimming in the cool water in the hot weather is definitely a kind of enjoyment. It is like Mina and Asui now, who is racing faster. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Masada can't figure out why Mina has the courage to compete with Asui in the water. This is obviously Asui's home game. Beach volleyball is a very famous sport, even before quirk appeared on the international stage. No, Masada doesn't matter, because he is used to it. Insert the parasol that I brought out before into the sand fiercely, and then ran back to the villa to bring out a recliner and a large glass of cold drink. Chapter 143 Lobster Feast. Advertisement. Mina was lying on the swimming ring. As the slight waves drifted everywhere, Asui had disappeared from the sea. He might be diving. Yi Yin and Cha Cha walked along the beach, the waves just past their ankles. Lying relaxed on the recliner, Masada drank a cold drink with a straw in his mouth, and looked at the infinitely beautiful scenery in front of him openly. It was really comfortable. As time progressed, the sun also rose above everyone's heads. This was the hottest time of the day. 340. Looking up at the sky, the blue sky seemed to have been washed away, echoing the blue sea. There was no cloud in the sky, only a bright and dazzling sun hanging in the sky. Mina, help me apply some sunscreen. Feeling the harshness of the sun, Yi Yin greeted Mina quickly and asked her to get out of the sea. The girls who pay attention to maintenance also walked out of the sea one after another and came under a few other umbrellas. This is just now under the order of Yaoyorozu. Masada moved out temporarily. Since he is only a boy, Masada had to pick it up. Under this drudgery. I'm coming. Mina, who was suddenly called out, fell directly into the sea from the swimming ring without paying attention. After a few flutters, he appeared and then quickly swam to the shore. Yaoyorozu Baihei Cha-Cha also trot over all the way. Feeling the look in the eyes of the wife, Yaoyorozu glared at him in shame. Help me get some drinks, I want something to drink. Advertisement. Masada didn't care, and directly handed her half of the cold drink in her hand. Yaoyorozu, who was already very thirsty, didn't think much about it, and took the cup over, then bit the straw and drank. If you don't drink it, why don't you allow me to drink it? There are still people in the world who can't get enough to eat. Such a waste is no good. Fortunately, Masada took a basket of drinks back from the freezer.
When returning to the beach, Yaoyorozu was lying on a recliner not far from him, while Mina at the back enthusiastically asked to apply sunscreen to her. Seeing Jungtae walking back with a drink, she uttered a cheer, "Should you come and give Yaoyorozu a lotion? I just want to drink a drink." After listening to Mina's words, she looked at Yaoyorozu subconsciously. "No, Mina, don't talk nonsense. You hurry away. So many of us have to paint, don't you just stay here all the time." Feeling Zhengma's gaze again, Yaoyorozu raised his small head buried in the recliner, glared at him, and said disgustingly. Advertisement. I was so helpless, I could only get up and leave the lounge chair and walk towards the beach. Standing on a higher reef, I just jumped too hard. The whole person is like a diver, falling straight into the sea, allowing the cool water to wrap himself up. Suddenly, a strange feeling was felt on the toes. Masada, who was potentially in the sea, opened his eyes. The sea area in this place is not deep. With the clear water and bright sunshine, Masada's field of vision is still very clear even if there is a distance from the sea. I saw a large lobster estimated to be more than half a meter long, using one of its large tongs to tighten its toes, and the other was flaring its teeth and claws towards Masada, revealing a fierce force. Isn't this lobster too insightful, dare to attack the top of the food chain? And it seems that Masada is regarded as food 4.8. With a malicious smile, Masada spit out a few bubbles from her mouth, and then pulled the lobster off her feet as soon as she reached out. Even with this lobster, he wanted to pierce his own skin. It looks like you can have an extra meal tonight, which is still very hearty. Clutching this lobster, which is still resisting constantly, while swimming towards the sea, Masada thought silently. Chapter 144 Masada's Reward. Advertisement. When they returned to the shore, Yaoyorozu and others had all applied sunscreen, and now they were playing at the beach. Even Cha-Cha and Jiro, who didn't want to go into the water before, stood in waist-deep seawater and splashed with each other. Seeing Masada coming, with a large lobster in his hand, the girls immediately surrounded him with excitement. Wow, what a big lobster. Can you eat it at night? Xiao, Masada is very good. I didn't see any seafood after swinging under the bottom of the sea just now. Unexpectedly, not long after Masada went out, he brought back a hearty delicacy. Everyone thought it was amazing. After all, even the best water-based Asui could not do this kind of thing. I can only say that Masada's luck is good. Then let's reward you. Mina thought for a while and felt that Masada gave them umbrellas and drinks today, and even prepared food for them on the 23rd night, and suggested that everyone give him some rewards. Then what do you reward him? It seems that he doesn't lack anything. Yaoyorozu tilted her head and looked thinking. She also felt that today's attitude towards Jungtae was a little bad, but she seemed to have forgotten at this time. In the morning, she was kissed by Jungtae. Why don't you reward him for making dinner for us? Jiro grinned smirkily, and made suggestions without too much trouble. Advertisement. This is not a reward at all. I was too slow to refute that if they want to reward them, shouldn't they cook themselves a sumptuous meal and let themselves experience the life of the ancient rich masters? Mina shouted loudly, she was never tired of the gossip between the two. However, as soon as she finished speaking, Yaoyorozu gagged her mouth with a bottle of drink. After pouring a few large mouthfuls of ice water, she squatted on the ground coldly and panted. Let's apply sunscreen to Masada too. If you don't wear it, you might get sunburned too. In the end, Cha-Cha made a more pertinent suggestion, which seemed to reflect the girl's wishes. Then the question is, who is going to apply sunscreen to Masada? Cha-Cha just wanted to say whether to draw lots or not, but found that all the girls except Yaoyorozu had retreated far away, hiding under the parasol farthest from here, and turned on the theater mode. Woolen cloth. This time Masada didn't speak, so she lay quietly on the chair, as if she was asleep. After Cha-Cha saw that Masada hadn't moved, she became bolder. At this time, the other girls couldn't restrain their playful temperament and ran to the beach again. Advertisement. Yi Yin was lying on the beach at this time, and Mina was squatting beside her, constantly grabbing the sand and throwing it at her. Depending on the situation, Yi Yin wanted to bury herself in the sand. Jiro's water doesn't seem to be very good. With the help of Asui, he floats in the sea with the help of a swimming ring and stirs up white waves. Yaoyorozu is a man kneeling quietly and sitting in the shade, building a castle with damp sand. Fortunately, there is no one else here, otherwise Masada will definitely melt them with hot lava. Time passed quietly like this. Without paying attention to 343, the sun fell from the top of the head to the horizon. It was already evening. Yaoyorozu took out his mobile phone, took a picture of his masterpiece, and looked at it with satisfaction. Then he put his hands on his mouth and shouted that Jiro, who had learned to swim in the sea, was thumping happily. Today is running out of time. It's early, let's go back after you bring your things. I don't feel so happy yet. Mina is picking up shells with Yi Yin at this time, and seems to have plans to make them into trinkets. It's not just such a day anyway, there will be a whole week left for you to play. Masada stretched his waist and got up from the recliner, and said to her lazily, and it's almost time for dinner, right? There is a big lobster waiting for you. Chapter 145 Chef Yi Yin. Advertisement. After the lobster was caught, they were sent to the freezer of the villa. Because of this special ingredient, everyone decided not to go to the restaurant to eat, but to cook their own food in the villa. Then I'll call to buy some vegetables. Cooking together is actually a very happy thing, and it is also a good way to communicate feelings, so even if Yaoyorozu is not good at cooking, he still talks about it with great interest. This time everyone didn't object. Yaoyorozu didn't want to bother before. Yaoyorozu Bai just felt that he couldn't let the other party arrange everything, but this time, if everyone participates together, there will be no problem. Yi Yin had already observed in the kitchen, familiar with the location of various kitchen utensils in advance, and it seemed that he was going to show his skills. Before long, a truck loaded with all kinds of seafood and vegetables arrived at the door of the villa. This is too much, right? Looking at the amount that is estimated to be enough for everyone to eat for a week, Jung is too embarrassed. It's okay. If you can't finish it, put it in the freezer. Anyway, the housekeeper has to eat too. Naturally, Yaoyorozu would not care. Originally, there were housekeepers and nanny living in this villa for daily maintenance, so these ingredients are also necessary. Well, I can't cook anymore. My limit is to cook instant noodles. After moving all the ingredients into the villa, Masada lay down on the sofa with a nasty expression, and it seemed that she couldn't get up before dinner. I didn't expect you to intervene, but this time we have Chef Yi Yin. With a snort, Yaoyorozu took Yi Yin's arm, but she just learned that Yi Yin is a good cook and can compete with the chef in the restaurant. Yes, I will be in charge of today's dinner. Chef Yi Yin fight. Since the time was late, everyone quickly started to act. Yaoyorozu Beizheng was worried about a fish in front of him. This fish should not have been fished for a long time, and it was still alive and kicking, with the tail flapping from time to time and splashing water. Let me cut the fish. Quote. Seeing this scene, Cha-Cha put down the washed green pepper in his hand and ran to her in a small step. Cha-Cha is due to the family. Although the cooking skills are average, the general dishes can still be made, and things like fish cutting are still handy, but Yaoyorozu is different. She has been a daughter since she was a young lady. The knife is not very clear. Advertisement. He skillfully pressed the eager fish on the chopping board, and Cha-Cha turned around and said softly, why don't you go and cut the green pepper, Yaoyorozu? I have washed it just now. Oh, okay. Yaoyorozu, who was initially at a loss, had a goal. He picked up a kitchen knife and walked towards the green pepper. Wow, she was washing rice in silence. Mina was fighting an onion, but seeing her tears streaming down her face, she shouldn't be in great condition. As the chef, Yi Yin is dealing with the big dish tonight, the wild lobster. She used a special knife to easily split the lobster shell, took out the lobster meat inside, and then swiped the knife quickly at the lobster. Under the dense shadow of the knife, slices of lobster meat, like cherry blossom petals, are flying in the air, but it seems that there is another invisible thread that strung them together, always on the same trajectory, after drawing a long parabola. Falling into the tray on the side. This is obviously going to make this lobster into sashimi. Sashimi is one of the most common delicacies on the seaside. Fresh raw materials, soft taste, plus pungent soy sauce and mustard, can be said to be a combination of deliciousness and nutrition. Xiao Yin's knife skills are so good. Yi Yin's gorgeous operation naturally attracted everyone. Yaoyorozu Bai was no exception, and she was the one who watched the most. Because she found that when she cut green peppers, she couldn't cut them into shreds at all, she could only cut them into pieces. What? Because of being too focused, unfortunately, she cut a hole in her finger. Hearing the exclamation coming from the kitchen, Masada also glanced curiously, and then saw Yaoyorozu Beizheng holding his fingers and blowing continuously. What's the matter? Did you cut your hand through it? She got up and walked into the kitchen, and she saw Yaoyorozu's eyebrows frowning, as if there was a trace of pain. Looking down, she saw a blood stain on her finger, and blood was dripping down. I accidentally cut my finger when cutting vegetables just now. Yaoyorozu glanced at Masada and lowered his head. It's just a little bit, it's okay. Oh, that's okay. Advertisement. Seeing that it was only a minor injury, Masada responded and turned to leave. People who can go to school in Shangying Heroes are not weak girls. It is normal to get injured even in normal training. This injury is almost negligible. That's right, Yaoyorozu has been injured so much that he doesn't care about it. It seems that I was wrong about Xiaozheng Tai. Unexpectedly, a lot of condemnation came suddenly behind him, and even a faint sniffing sound sounded. After stopping, Masada looked back and found that a group of girls were pointing at him. Yaoyorozu's eyes were red, and there were even tears in it. Nani? Masada was shocked at the time, and she wouldn't pay attention to this wound at all. Why is she crying now? And facing the girl's weird, okay eyes, Masada really felt a little unbearable. Come here, I will help you deal with the wound. Stepping forward, he grabbed Yaoyorozu's arm and took her out, closing the kitchen door by the way. Give me your hand. Yaoyorozu Bai heard Masada's voice. Although he was still shaking his head, he handed it over subconsciously. Grabbing her hand, she looked too carefully, and saw the white and slender index fingertips. There was a small wound with a trace of blood coming out of it. Squeezing the wound, Masada asked, does it hurt?
Yaoyorozu saw the serious expression on his face, so he twitched his nose, his eyes were very aggrieved. It hurts. Then kill and sterilize it, it won't be good if the wound is infected. He said in a serious tone too vaguely, this is common sense. Chapter 146 Yaoyorozu 100 Thoughts. Advertisement. After half an hour, dinner was finally ready. Because there are more people, there are naturally many dishes made. There are Masada's favorite fried shrimp tempura, green pepper and potato shreds, seafood platter, braised octopus, miso soup, fried seasonal vegetables, and the most anticipated lobster sashimi. Full the dining room tables. It all depends on what I am doing. The tempura has not fallen on the table for more than 3 seconds. According to the 3-second principle, it can still be eaten. Seeing everyone's strange expressions, Mina also became strange. It would be unsanitary to eat the things that fell on the table. Everyone sat around the table, and after the regular dinner declaration, the sumptuous dinner began. Advertisement. Looking at the tempura on the table blankly, Mina's expression suddenly became serious. Seeing her serious expression and thinking she was blaming herself for wasting food, Yaoyorozu quickly comforted her. It's okay, just turn around and throw it away. However, before she finished her words, Mina's chopsticks were like a flooding dragon, which caught the tempura on the table like lightning, and then ate it with one bite. It was too silent. Shao Masada, why don't you eat vegetables? Isn't today's food not to your taste? Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Advertisement. I just clipped a tempura, but I just saw something funny. Mina burst into laughter. As a result, the chopsticks could not be held firmly, and the tempura fell directly onto the table. Ah, it's dropped. The TV in the restaurant was showing a comedy show. Mina watched it intently, and made silly laughs from time to time, but Masada couldn't figure out what the jokes were about these tricky shows with exaggerated expressions. FK. What kind of sound do you want to make a fuss with this righteous tone? And this 3-second principle was made up by you. Everyone also became puzzled. Masada in school is usually a famous big stomach king, and from just now tonight, it was just a few chopsticks, and it was not like him at all. Masada only felt that the vocabulary she had was not enough to complain, but at this moment Asui suddenly asked. Chapter 147 Desert Island Adventure. Advertisement. 3 days of happy seaside life passed in this way. During this period, there were no earth-shattering masters. They were all ordinary bits and pieces, but they were kept in the hearts of everyone and became a good memory. Now, it was the morning of the 4th day, and the 7 people in the villa were gathered around the dining table to eat breakfast. The staple food for breakfast is rice, and the side dishes are lemon-grilled sauri and miso soup. Of course, bread and milk are also available. Generally speaking, it is a very ordinary breakfast. Sure enough, no matter what it is, I will get bored. Mina, who was pulling the sauri with chopsticks, said weakly, it is hard to imagine that she was swimming in the sea energetically just yesterday. It makes sense to say that. It seems that I have already played all the laps around. Cha-Cha delivered romi rice to her mouth, and then drank a flavor-enhancing soup. She had some mild anemia, so she always ate more for breakfast. Then, why don't we go out to sea and go around? Yaoyorozu also felt that it would be meaningless to play on the beach all the time, so he followed everyone's opinion and came out. There is an undeveloped island in the nearby sea, but although it is said to be an uninhabited island, some people have already set foot on it. Would you like to go there to experience it? After listening to Yaoyorozu's words, Masada also stopped chewing in his mouth. The wound on his tongue had healed all night. That is to say, expedition in the wild. Good idea. Desert island adventure or something is the best. Yi Yin heard that there was still this kind of activity, and immediately raised his hands in agreement. Of course, everyone couldn't see it at all. I also think it's pretty good, it looks cool. Jiro and Asui also had expectations on their faces and agreed to this proposal. Then let's go after breakfast. I'll ask the butler to arrange a cruise, and then we will sail by ourselves. Yaoyorozu 100 can be said to fully embodies the demeanor of the big sister, and completely becomes the spiritual pillar of girls. Advertisement. Long live. Because of the excitement, everyone hastily resolved the food in front of them, and then they could not wait to get on the bus to the pier. When everyone walked to the pier, a small cruise ship had steadily docked on the shore. This is also a private yacht in Yaoyorozu's 100 houses. Usually there is no use for it. Today, it is finally able to show its skills. Masada first stepped forward and communicated with the driver in charge of the yacht. I heard that this group of people are the owners of the yacht. The driver naturally treated it with enthusiasm and taught Masada how to look at the direction and start the yacht. The rest of the people were already strolling around on the yacht, and all of a sudden there were shouts on the yacht. Playing and learning. About half an hour later, Masada slapped his chest to make sure that he had learned everything. Although the driver was a little suspicious, he still gave the key to Masada's hand, and then got off the boat. NS. Okay, let's go. After the anchor was lifted, Masada in the driver's cab yelled through the radio, and the yacht slowly turned its direction and sailed towards the sea. The girls are standing on the second floor of the yacht, looking out at the sea. Under the breeze, the sapphire-like sea in the distance was gently wafting. With the sound of a siren, the stern of the ship swayed with white waves, making a soothing sound of waves. Enter the coordinates of the island that Yaoyorozu Bai told him into the yacht's navigation system, and Masada adjusted the direction and accelerated toward it. Now that science and technology are advanced, pathfinding has become a very easy thing. Think about it: if it was hundreds of years ago, then you could only rely on astrology and experience to sail, it would be a terrible thing. Due to the fast speed of the yacht, everyone did not wait for too long. A small island appeared in everyone's field of vision. The girl's eyes suddenly widened, and the distant island looked like a primitive and dense jungle. Covering it completely, the unobtrusive beach also looks a bit deserted. Adventure. Cha-Cha and Yi Yin hugged directly together and cheered. Although Cha-Cha Wei was very shy when facing Zheng Tai, she was a vigorous girl like Mina on weekdays. Don't think too much. This looks like an uninhabited island, but in fact, someone has been here a long time ago, but because this small island does not have any rich resources, it has slowly become a desert island. But the original natural environment has been well preserved. Although I feel that speaking out may dampen their enthusiasm, Yaoyorozu still reminds them not to think too good. For flowers. Advertisement. So there is no treasure in the tree hole, and there will be no primitive people in the jungle. Zheng Tai's words rang from the broadcast. However, it seems that the words of the two have not affected others, and right, children born in cities since childhood are very yearning for things like deserted islands. Ready to land on the island. Cautiously parked the cruise ship near the sea, Masada put down the survival raft and the parcels containing living supplies. There is no dock here, and you may be stranded if you go further. Rowing a rickety kayak, 7 people boarded the beach. The intense salty smell is several times more intense than the beach at the entrance of the villa. Because it is July, the seafood is particularly rich. People started out a bunch of crabs without taking a few steps and ran around on the beach. So cute. When Yaoyorozu saw these dumb little animals, he was instantly stunned, and he squatted down and looked at these tiny creatures. In fact, Masada has always felt that the full name of the so-called Small Animal Protection Associations should be Cute Small Animal Protection Associations. For example, it is clear that mice and hamsters are small rodents, but because hamsters are cute, they become pets. As long as they run a few laps in the cage all day, there will be melon seeds and wood chips that cannot be eaten, and rats can only survive in the gloomy sewers, just because they are ugly. However, these crabs didn't seem to appreciate it, and they waved their crab claws toward Yaoyorozu to make a fierce look, but it was even more adorable in the eyes of the girls, and they all surrounded them. I think you can catch some crabs so that you can improve the flavor when you cook the soup. The warm moment was interrupted by Masada's words full of predator breath. At this time, everyone woke up. The place they were on was a deserted island without anyone. How to solve the lunch problem waiting for the meeting. Don't worry, I brought all the supplies on the ship, but we have to do it ourselves. Seeing a few girls who were about to cry, Zheng was too helpless to point to behind him, where there was a large bag of food and drinking water. Had no one noticed it when I was in the kayak just now? Hurrah! Long. Chapter 148: A Crisis Hidden in the Depths. Advertisement. How about the batch of test products made through the doctor's research? In a tall building in Tokyo, such a conversation took place in an airtight room. I heard that you are also very interested in these PhD research results recently. The person speaking was Allforone, who had been silent for a long time. At this moment, he was talking to the man on the screen in front of him. Yes, because my body is weak, it is natural to rely on some foreign objects. The man on the screen looks very ordinary, but if Junta is here, he will definitely recognize him, Nishio Hunter. Hehehehe, if you want to study, just go and study it. I am more concerned about the latest experimental subjects. According to the timetable, the first batch should have been completed. As a table hero, Alfarone is not particularly concerned about 3, 4, 3, for these actions under his own hands. The reason is that his strength is strong enough. Yes, do you need to put them out for testing? After all, actual combat data is also a key point. Of course, if the experiment goes well, then they will become my sharpest weapon in the future. Talking about what I care about most, Alfarone also got excited, and pressed his hands tightly on the armrest of the boss chair to suppress my mood. Moreover, my body will be adjusted soon. This time, I will make All Might disappear completely. Nishio Hunter, behind the screen, heard the confident words of Allforone, and smiled, as you wish, my lord. By the way, how did you feel like changing the quirk last time? As if thinking of something, Allforone, who was about to hang up, suddenly asked. It feels great. No, I should say it can't be better. After getting a satisfactory answer, Alfarone smiled lowly, turned off the screen, and the strange laughter kept echoing in the building. Not cooking in the kitchen seems to be a very interesting thing, at least Masada thinks so now. I took out the tools in the big bag and placed them on the ground. The electric stove, iron pot, and barbecue grills are very complete, but Masada always feels that something is missing. Turning his head to look at the girls, they found that they were also at a loss. Electricity. 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 Advertisement. There is no power supply on this desert island at all. In the end, it was Chef Mina who discovered the problem and shouted with a broken face. Masada has also discovered this serious problem. Tools and materials are available, but only lack of energy. This is equivalent to giving you a car but not giving you fuel. No matter how good your car skills are, you can't drive it. It would be great if Kaminari was here. Masada started to miss Kaminari, but he had seen Kaminari use his quirk to charge his mobile phone more than once. It would certainly not be a problem to power these appliances. Thinking about it this way, Kaminari is simply a mobile power supply. This is super popular with wood. Although he will become an idiot, it is really hard to complain. Then bake it. After thinking about it, it seems that there is only one way left. After all, lunchtime is about to come. Everyone had no objections, so they acted immediately. Chef Yi Yin was the first one to set off. With the help of Asui, he was able to support the grill with his hands and feet, while Masada and Yaoyorozu took out all the ingredients. Frozen roasted meat, dehydrated vegetables, fresh fruits and large buckets of drinking water. After preparing everything, Cha-Cha and Mina have picked up a lot of firewood, and piled them together on the beach with Jiro into a prototype waiting for the fire. I said, what do you want this to do? Masada is a little speechless. Is it possible that they are expecting to use these wood for barbecue? Sure enough, the three of them also answered him very confidently. Obviously I am here, what else do I need these charcoal for? Hearing Masada's words, the three of them were still at a loss. Today we use magma to barbecue. Originally wanted to create some mystery, Yaoyorozu had no choice but to say the answer. Yaoyorozu smiled slightly when he saw his mark. Wow, magma barbecue. It sounds very interesting. I had never heard of this way of eating tea, and immediately became interested, and ran to the side of Masada and took his arm. Hurry up and demonstrate it. Advertisement. After Yi Yin and Asui heard the conversation here, they came over with curiosity. Obviously they also wanted to see this magical barbecue method. Now that the grill is also set up, let me show it. But you have to make a few protective clothing first, otherwise the temperature may be very high after a while. After talking, Masada found out that Yaoyorozu can obviously make a small generator. Of course, this must be based on the premise that she can create. Will it be so good to use quirk in this place? Good boy Yaoyorozu is a bit hesitant, because the few people present have not obtained the temporary license. According to the regulations, it is not allowed to use quirk outside at will. Oh, what are you afraid of? There are only a few of us on this island. It doesn't matter once in a while. Mina and Yi Yin had already hugged one of her arms and persuaded them to persuade them. All right, it couldn't hold everyone, and there were indeed no outsiders here. The light on her body flashed for a while, and several protective clothing appeared in her hands. After seeing the girls fully armed, Masada pointed his arm at the grill, and red spots appeared on his hand, and then the whole hand turned into crimson lava, slowly flowing into the grill. This temperature is not enough to melt the grill made of high-temperature alloy. After putting the wire mesh on the grill, Masada picked up a large piece of marinated frozen meat and put it on. At the beginning, the meat did not seem to have changed. It was not as magical as expected. The girls were also a little frustrated. They thought they could cook the meat in a second. However, after more than 10 seconds 4.8, the fat and thin meat dripped crazy, and Masada picked it up in time and turned it over. After more than 10 seconds, Masada gave this piece of meat. Put it on the plate. Come and taste it. Although it looks like a chef, Junta actually has no bottom in his own heart. This magma barbecue is just a whim of his cooking method. It can only be resigned if it is delicious, but I can smell the richness of this barbecue. The meat smell should not be too bad. Good to eat. Yaoyorozu, who took a knife and cut off a small piece of meat, stuffed it into his mouth, and suddenly exclaimed with satisfaction. There is no smell of charcoal fire, and it is very tasty. The charred part is also just right, there is no greasy feeling at all. Hearing the praise from the women, Masada cut a piece and tasted it herself, and then. This piece is not enough to eat, so hurry up and bake a few more pieces. Chapter 149 Weird Jungle. Advertisement. After eating lunch by the beach, the group headed towards the forest area in the island. As soon as I moved away from the beach and entered the forest area, I immediately fell silent, surrounded by huge trees, lush bushes and weeds all over the ground. There won't be snakes here, right? Cha-Cha broke a branch and held it in his hand as an exploration stick, and said nervously. The sunlight is blocked by the dense leaves, and it is difficult to reach the surface, so the environment is a bit gloomy. If there really is a snake here, it will not be surprising. Don't worry, Cha-Cha, how can there be snakes on this kind of island, and even if there are, they won't be our opponent. Mina was very optimistic, waving her fist and walking at the forefront of the team, still humming a little song, looking like a jungle explorer. But Mina seems to be on your head. Hearing Cha-Cha's trembling sound, Mina raised her head curiously. Ah. I saw a huge snake with brown spots on the tree canopy above her head quietly. He heard the roar below and stuck out his tongue. It's really the crow's 23-mouthed little Mina.
Compared to Cha-Cha and the Mina mentioned in his mouth, Asui did not seem to be afraid of anything, and looked at the big snake curiously. Asui looked at it and even stretched out his finger, wanting to poke the snake. Asui doesn't know what to say. Shouldn't the snake be the natural enemy of the frog? Why can you be so calm? It won't be poisonous. Jiro didn't seem to have a good impression of such reptiles, and stepped back and asked. This should be a Burmese python, not a venomous snake. It is a native species of Southeast Asia. It lives mostly in tropical rain forests. But why does it appear here? The island environment should not be suitable for them to survive. Encyclopedia Yaoyorozu glanced at the appearance of this python and recognized it, and popularized it for everyone. Advertisement. It's okay if there is no poison, ah. Hearing Yaoyorozu Bai's words, Mina immediately got bold again, pointed her middle finger at the big python, and made a face. Who knew this python saw Mina's behavior, suddenly straightened its waxed body, and attacked Mina from the tree. Careful. From a visual point of view, this python is also 6 meters long, and it is also very large. If it is restrained, it will not be a good thing. As the only man in the team, Masada came to the front of the python with one step, then clenched his fist, and hit it on the head ahead of time when the python was about to attack it. Puff. Masada's strength was not what this ordinary python could bear. After falling to the ground and twisting it a few times, the python stopped moving. Forgot to say, Burmese pythons are very aggressive, so it's best not to provoke them. Yaoyorozu's reminder was only late at this time, and looked at the python that had turned into a corpse with embarrassment. The girls were all pointing at the giant on the ground at this time. This was the first time they had come into contact with such a creature so close, and it was natural that they were curious. But Masada looked at her fist a little strangely. It is reasonable to say that the power she used just now should be able to directly smash the snake's skull, but the red seal on her hand told him that the bones of a snake are much harder than I thought. He whispered this discovery to Yaoyorozu Bai, who was also thinking about it. Yaoyorozu Bai also nodded solemnly. From just now, she felt a little wrong. It stands to reason that on this original ecological island, what is the bird? There should be a lot of them, but after entering the forest, I didn't even hear a bird's song, which is really weird. The two exchanged information quietly, but they did not say anything. After all, this may be just a coincidence, but they will definitely be more vigilant in the next time. After being attacked by this unpredictable python, everyone reorganized and decided to walk a little further inside and then return to the beach and take a boat back. Look, there's a cave here. Everyone now came to the edge of a cliff. The cliff stretched for several miles without seeing the boundary, as if it had divided the island in half. Sound. Should it be the wind? After listening carefully, Cha-Cha said with some uncertainty. Advertisement. Should we go in and take a look? The cave is the most exciting place, right? Yi Yin jumped in place with excitement, and found a strange cave on a little-known desert island. Doesn't this coincide with the protagonist's adventure in the novel? It's still going to be done. Jung was a little hesitant. The strange signs on the island made him feel a little uneasy, and the cave was also very strange, and he could hear the wind from inside, then the cave must be very deep. Yaoyorozu did not speak, but Cha-Cha looked a little eager to move. Oh, let's go, none of us are afraid, don't you, a big man, still be afraid. In the end, Mina and Yi Yin couldn't help but persuaded. A few people decided to take a walk in this cave, but immediately evacuated as soon as they encountered danger, and this cave was also the end of today's itinerary, and then returned to the beach to take the ride. Ship back to the villa to rest. Before entering the cave, everyone 343 also made enough preparations. Yaoyorozu used his own quirk to make 7 helmets with a searchlight for lighting. Cha-Cha took out the insect repellent from the backpack. Prevent a lot of mosquitoes inside. Entering the cave, the light disappeared at once, and only darkness was left around, and the temperature suddenly dropped a few degrees, as if it had suddenly come to lick you from midsummer. Click. Everyone turned on the searchlight on the hat, and several beams of light appeared in the cave, showing the surrounding environment to everyone. Although the surrounding stone walls are convex and uneven, they extend in one direction uniformly. There are no tortuous roads, and it feels like they were excavated manually. Moreover, the ground of the cave was obviously polished. Compared with the bumpy ground in the forest outside, it was leveled by more than one grade. The sound heard outside the cave is also more real at this time. It feels like the sound of wind outside, but it gives people another feeling here. It seems like the roar of a beast. Quietly, even Mina and Yi Yin, who were the most active before, felt something was wrong at this time, held their breath and moved slowly forward. The strange sound in the cave suddenly disappeared. For a while, there was only the sound of footsteps and breathing. Chapter 150, A Perilous Cave. Advertisement. It seems a little scary. In an extremely quiet environment, people's emotions are easily amplified, and now there is a trace of fear spreading in the hearts of the women. Masada didn't feel any strangeness, but he was already alert. Tick. Suddenly, a voice sounded, which was particularly abrupt in this quiet environment. What? Then I heard Cha-Cha's exclamation. What happened? Finding something unusual, everyone hurriedly got to the side of Cha-Cha,
holding back the fear in their hearts, with a faint chill on their backs, and observing the surroundings sternly. No, nothing. Cha-Cha herself was taken aback. Just now, there was a sudden cold on her own shoulder, and it seemed that some liquid had dripped on it. There seems to be water on the top of this cave. Just a drop of water fell off. Soon the mood stabilized, Cha-Cha explained to everyone by waving her hands. This is also a normal situation. In a humid environment, it is easy for water droplets to seep out from the cracks on the roof of the cave. This is how stalactites are formed. After listening to the tea, everyone was relieved, and the tense atmosphere just now seemed to disappear suddenly. And many more. However, Masada made a sound and stopped everyone's footsteps. Slowly raising his head, the light beam from the helmet slowly moved upwards, and finally, it was fixed on the top of Cha-Cha's head. Hurry up! Advertisement. Seeing exactly what was on top of his head, he was too ignorant of what was going on, so he just yelled. The girls hadn't figured out the status of the matter yet, so they raised their heads in a daze. Monster. I saw a creature nearly 3 meters long clinging to the top of the cave. It had a lizard-like body, but it had 8 strong legs and a high bulge on its back. There is still liquid flowing in the big open mouth. The water droplets that Cha-Cha thought just now are its saliva. It was the first time I saw a monster with such a hideous face, and in this dark and strange environment, even the students of Xiangying, Yigan were shocked. After all, this battle in peacetime is different. Although the battle in the school is dangerous, the opponent is also a human being. The unknown is the most terrible. He turned around in a hurry and wanted to return to the original path, but the ground suddenly vibrated again. The monster that was still overhead had jumped down and stopped in front of the women, blocking the way. It seems that we can only kill it. Quote. Looking at this monster too seriously, he said to the girls. After all, whether it was the exposed sharp teeth, the intermittent roar in the throat, or the scarlet eyeballs in the dark, they all told Masada that this was not a peace-loving creature. You guys step back a bit, I'll kill him. Among the people present, Masada's combat effectiveness is undoubtedly the strongest, and Quirk's power is also the strongest. In addition, he is now acting as a mainstay role. Naturally, everyone has no objection and quickly retreats behind him. Hot lava emerged from his arms and dripped into the cave. The cave that was still dark was instantly filled with red light, showing its original appearance. Everyone's previous conjectures are fully implemented. The cave is obviously man-made. Not only that, but there are some steel pipes hidden in the interior of these stones. Perhaps the stone above can be seen again after falling off. And there is a suspected lighting device on the top of the head. When everyone came in, they ignored the top of the head and did not find this problem at all. There seems to be a switch in this place. The sharp-eyed Mina saw a bulge on the inner wall of the cave, which was exactly the same color as the surrounding rocks. If you didn't look closely, you wouldn't be able to see it. Advertisement. Don't move. Yaoyorozu saw that Mina's hand had been placed on it, and he quickly stopped. However, her reminder was still a step too late. Just when she was speaking, the ground suddenly vibrated, and Mina was also unstable, so she directly pressed the switch. The rapid sirens reverberated in the cave, and then the lighting equipment on the roof of the cave suddenly lit up one by one. What is this? Is it a light switch? Mina, who hadn't realized what she had done, said blankly when she saw the cave suddenly brightened up. Yaoyorozu and the others are also very strange. It stands to reason that it would not be a good thing for the siren to sound, but for now it seems that nothing strange has happened except for the lights. However, this conclusion was quickly overturned by them. Not long after, the sound of a glass bottle shattered suddenly came from the depths of the cave, followed by the impact sound of liquid falling from midair. After being quiet for a while, various weird roars gradually came out, forming a symphony-like tone. Of course, this tone will only make your scalp numb. Mina, you are in trouble. What are the weird things in this cave? Yi Yin was terribly frightened because of what happened just now. He just came to a sense of relief, but found that he seemed to be in a bigger crisis again. At this time, the arm holding Mina was swaying constantly, and tears were about to fall. On the contrary, it is the most afraid of Cha-Cha. At this time, I calmed down and spent so long with Masada Yaoyorozu and the two OK Zhao. In addition, she was already very strong, and she could not be surprised at the situation at this time. NS. Now that we see strange things, we can't touch them. I suspect that there are many monsters like just now in this cave. They should come soon. Everyone is ready. Masada alone can't take care of us. Everyone. As the eldest sister, Yaoyorozu has talked a lot, and Mina, who was still a little at a loss, also recovered, looking at the depths of the cave with a nervous expression. Case. And Masada was confronting the monster in front of her. The body of the lizard. 8 feet. And the back like a tumor. What the hell is this? The monster in front of him seemed to be afraid of Masada, but kept yelling at him, but he didn't attack. Chapter 151 Hidden Danger. Advertisement. Biological instinct. Looking at the monster who dared not attack before him, it was too strange. Could it be that you can see that I am strong? A little complacent, but just as he knew it was not time to waste time, he heard the siren just now, and those roars also made him a little uneasy. One hit to solve you. The magma on his hand spewed out, wrapping the entire arm, just as he sprinted to the monster's body, and swung his arm. Feeling the crisis, as well as the instinctive fear of high temperature as a carbon-based creature, the lizard monster's movements turned out to be faster than imagined. 8 sturdy legs moved together, and they moved a distance to the side like lightning. High speed. Obviously he has a huge body, but the speed is not weak, and this kind of movement is simply unheard of. The lizard monster that avoided Masada's attack also quickly launched a counterattack. The blood basin suddenly opened, revealing the 2 rows of sharp white teeth inside, and bite towards Masada in one bite, and Masada could even stabilize the stench from his breath. Even if it was able to escape this blow through 347 elementalization, Jung-Tu really didn't want to experience the feeling of being in its mouth. His toes hit the ground in an instant, and it almost escaped the attack of this big mouth. Seeing that he couldn't make a single blow, the lizard monster didn't catch up, but just stood there, as if something was brewing. I saw the tumor behind it agitated, and then it seemed to be nauseated, as if something in the tumor had been transferred to the throat. Sure enough, after less than a second, the lizard monster spit out a bunch of white rays towards Masada. Although it was spit out from its mouth, the speed was not slow at all, almost comparable to the speed of the bullet. It's comparable. Advertisement. Masada tried his best to avoid it when he saw it behaved strangely, but because the distance was too close, he was still rubbed a little. What is this? It's too disgusting. There was a sticky feeling on the hand that was rubbed, and it was too disgusting in an instant, and he waved his hands frantically to use these strange white substances. However, he soon discovered that this was doing useless work, because these white mucus-like substances, like dog skin plasters, stuck to the hands and couldn't be used at all. Could this be? Looking back at the rest of the rays, just now, Masada found that the white matter formed a splash of water, all stuck to the inner wall of the cave. The combination of lizard and spider. I had a conjecture in my mind, and the lizard monster in front of me looked more and more alike. The 8 legs and the white sticky substance like spider silk were all in line with my own thoughts. That is to say, is it the product of genetic compounding? The hidden danger left by the doctor at the beginning is really not small. You can encounter such a thing when you come to a desert island. In Masada's impression, he has the ability to create such a monster. Except for Allforone, which is a doctor, but Allforone makes a monster with a compound quirk, not such a monster with 2 biological characteristics, so this can only be the result of the doctor. NS. Magma appeared on the hand, and the white spider silk instantly turned black in the flames, and then turned into ashes. Throwing away this part of the magma, the arm turned bright red in an instant. In fact, in such a small space, it is more advantageous to use a wider area of attack or to turn the terrain into magma, but there are still 6 girls behind Masada, so he can only use some single-point attacks. The skills to attack. Since you are fast, then I only need to be faster than you. While talking, Masada's figure has rushed out like a cheetah. After the previous battle with OCDEI or Matt, his speed has made a small breakthrough. At this time, ordinary people can no longer see his movement. Trajectory. I lowered my center of gravity to get a faster speed, and came to the front of the lizard monster again as if it was flying too, but this lizard monster also inherited the perception of the lizard, and was particularly sensitive to things in motion. At the tail, the thick and powerful tail stopped Masada's attack line. Advertisement. It's no wonder that I am, it's you who are looking for death by yourself. Seeing that the lizard monster was actually preparing to attack him with its tail, he was not surprised and rejoiced. What he worried most was that the monster would deal with himself with his own speed. In this case, things might become troublesome over time. And now Zhengge's mind, Masada has always been very confident about his frontal attack. The huge tail has a thick layer of horny substance, like a heavy hammer. The fist was raised, and as the distance between the two got closer and closer, the propelling force of magma burst out suddenly. Heaven dog. A majestic force came from his arm. Not only was this lizard monster extremely fast, but the strength was not weak at all. It turned out to be on par with Masada. However, Masada's attack power is only one aspect, and what is even more terrifying is the magma that seems to be able to burn everything. The two sides held a stalemate for just 1 second. The place where the lizard monster's tail and Masada's fist intersected turned into coke in the high temperature, and then was interrupted by a punch, and then the entire tail was swallowed by magma gushing out. Roar. Part of the body was missing, and the lizard monster immediately lost its balance. It took a few steps back, but it was no longer as agile as a drunkard. It fell awkwardly on the ground and kept roaring. Faced with the villains who might want to eat him, Masada didn't have any gentleman spirit, jumped on the neck of the lizard monster, and the arm that turned into magma stabbed in its neck, usually proud of it. His hard skin was completely useless in front of the magma. After a few twitches, the lizard monster lost its movement. After pulling his arm out, kicking the monster on the ground, after confirming that it had no signs of life, Masada ran to the side of the women. Hurry up. This place is very likely to be an experimental base. I am not sure if there will be any more powerful creatures in it, and it may not be easy to do it later. Looking at a few people inside the cave with a nervous look, Jung said too quickly that ensuring their own safety is the most important thing at this time, and if they escape safely, Masada can let go, and the big deal will be elemental. Run away. However, it seems to be a little late. Chapter 152 Escape the Cave. Advertisement. Following the eyes of the girls, a dark shadow has appeared in the depths of the cave. Rumble. The ground also began to vibrate, as if some huge creature was running, and the light above his head flickered, flickering and dimming, giving people a sense of horror. Don't worry, it's important to get out of the cave first. Seeing some people who were at a loss, Jungtu gritted his teeth and directly pulled Yaoyorozu Hayako Cha-Cha over and put it on his shoulders, and then ran out with his legs open. The rest of the people also recovered, quickly turned around to follow Masada, cautiously stepped over the magma that had been shot out in the battle just now, and then quickly ran towards the exit. When I came in, because everyone stayed together, I didn't feel that I had to walk a lot, but in this kind of escape, the distance suddenly became longer. Why can't I see the exit yet? At this time, Masada had also put the two down, feeling that it had been running for nearly 5 minutes, but did not even see the light from the exit. Masada was a little anxious. I took out the phone from my trouser pocket and saw that the signal disappeared completely. Now I can't send out the distress signal, I can only rely on myself. Finally, I ran to the end along the road when I came, but it was not an exit, but a dead end. How could this happen? Obviously there is only one way. Yaoyorozu saw the stone wall in front of him, rushed up and patted vigorously, and said in a panic. Cha-Cha's big eyes, which had always been agile, also dimmed, and even her red face was a little pale at this time. It's no wonder that they panic at this time. Masada also has a chill in his heart. There is only one road inside the cave, and it is straight. How to run? It suddenly becomes like this. Is it a legendary ghost attack? Wall. Are we trapped here to die? Mingwuwu, blame me. Mina was crying guilty at this time. She felt that things would turn out to be like this. Everything was her reason, whether it was an adventure on a desert island, entering this weird cave, or just pressing that weird button. She took the lead. If everyone had any accidents because of this, she might live in guilt all her life. Advertisement. Little Mina, the most important thing now is to find a way, so stop your tears first. Asui saw that Mina, who was usually full of energy, turned into this depressed look, and quickly went up to pat her back to comfort her, but it seemed to have the opposite effect. Mina was even more sad and sobbed louder. By the way, what about Yi Yin? Why didn't you see her? Suddenly, such a sentence came out of Masada's mouth. After looking around, there are only 6 people around. Could it be that they were lost in the process just now? I'm here. Although I don't have a high sense of existence, Xiao Masada, your words are really hurtful. His face was suddenly pulled, and it seemed that something soft was bumped into his chest, and he was slanting his mouth too hard and said, I can't see you just now because it must be stripped off. For sure. Then the touch of Yu Shang's mouth just now. Cut off. I took a breath too much, as if I had encountered something extraordinary, and then I felt a punch in the stomach. Humph. Deserve it. The successful Yi Yin snorted coldly, and looked at being too exaggerated to bend over and pretend to be injured. After Masada interrupted like this, Mina, who had previously blamed herself, couldn't help but smile, and the pessimistic atmosphere before was relieved a lot. If we didn't go the wrong way, then this stone wall in front of us is probably a prop to stop us. Seeing that everyone had returned to normal, Masada's expression became serious. You guys go back a little bit, I'll break it. Yaoyorozu heard what Masada said 100 times and felt that it was also very reasonable. Keep the shield in front of you to prevent stray bullets from splashing over. Seeing whether there is a huge stone wall with a height of meters in front of him, and without knowing its thickness, Masada is a bit uncertain about how to destroy it. If you use a trick like the fire eruption, if you fail to penetrate it, the remaining lava from the fire eruption will become another obstacle. Advertisement. For flowers. Raising a fist like a little sun, Masada took a step back, and then suddenly exerted force on the waist, and slammed the arm that had been charged for a long time. They can't take a bath in the magma like themselves. If there is a mistake, it is more than a disfigurement. The gap gradually expanded, and the entire stone wall seemed to shine with red light, and the most dazzling place was where Masada's fist struck. Under the extreme strength of the violent force, the hard rock did not last long, and was directly punched by Masada's fist. Then, the rotating magma continuously stripped the rocks from the rock walls and turned them into their own part. The magma in his hand spun at a high speed, and even drove a small searing air current. The crimson light made the dark caves glow red. After the stone wall was melted, the view suddenly became clear. It turned out that this was the place where the exit was originally, and the stone wall should be a huge rock, which was blocked in front of the exit. Turning back, he beckoned to the girls who were still trembling behind the shield. Looking back at the women who had stepped back nearly 10 meters, there was a shield in front of them, and she was too relieved. The scene in front of us made the women hiding behind her mouths cannot help but grow up. Just now it was a tall and indestructible thick barrier, and the next moment it all turned into lava and scattered on the ground. The whole incident took only a few seconds in total. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Lava Burst Punch. Come in my arms. Long. And for tricks like Minguo, the penetration is strong enough, but the gap opened is not enough for one person to pass. Looking at the magma dripping overhead, and then at this huge lava area on the ground, it was too difficult for him to manipulate such a large piece of magma to transfer to the side is not an easy task, but if not, how can these girls get out if they do this? After thinking about it, Masada still came up with a safe method. After the next breath, the stone wall that was originally shining with red light was melted at the moment when the red light reached its peak. Then you can only try this trick. Chapter 153 Escape the Cave. Advertisement. Of course Masada's words are joking. In this case, he doesn't have any thoughts about love. What he meant was to hug the girls one by one, so that everyone's safety could be guaranteed. Hurry up. Don't froze. Yaoyorozu saw the girls standing still like roots and hurriedly shouted. The vibrations coming from behind had become louder and louder, and the roars could be heard more clearly. Masada didn't care about the other things at this time, and quickly stepped forward and hugged one in one hand, then hugged them in her arms and rushed out towards the light. After 3 rounds, she finally transferred everyone to the forest. 100. You take them to the boat quickly, I will break it here. Escape from the cave is only the first step. The real crisis has not yet come. Masada has no time to breathe, and immediately shouted. 3, 4, 7, we stay and help you together. If you want to go, let's go together. Yaoyorozu, who is usually very sensible, has become sensational now, with a firm look on his face, and it seems that he will not leave easily. The fear on the faces of the other girls at this time also completely disappeared, staring straight at Masada. Seeing this, there is really no way for Masada, but the girls' combat effectiveness is also very strong, perhaps with their help, they can make it easier. That's right, Masada intends to keep all the monsters on the island here. If they are allowed to escape, it will definitely do great harm to the stability of the society. Then try to contact the school first and report our situation. Let me come, my frontal combat effectiveness is really weak. Yi Yin readily took over this important task. Contacting Xiangying was to prevent the existence of people on the island that could not be dealt with, and also to provide a guarantee for everyone to use the quirk. Yi Yin, who quickly ran to the side with his mobile phone, put aside for now, looking at the dark cave, Masada said again. Jiro, you are responsible for releasing sound waves into the cave to restrict their actions. 100, you and I are responsible for the positive firepower, Cha-Cha, Mina, and Suyu sauce to deal with the fish that slipped through the net. This arrangement is very reasonable, and naturally everyone has no opinion. Big Spitfire. Advertisement. In such an empty field outside, Masada naturally had no scruples, and the huge lava fist hit the cave. Boom. Quote. A huge amount of magma poured into the cave madly, and then the entrance of the cave was completely blocked. From the outside, the cave was originally dark and terrifying, and only a dark red lava wall remained. Yaoyorozu Beizai made various weapons, the light on his body was constantly shining, and there was even a machine gun on the ground. Jiro stood right in front of the cave with a nervous expression. She is equivalent to the front line. The first unlucky person to be attacked was her. The other 3 are on standby, ready to fight. Did it work? Looking at the lava that has gradually cooled down, I thought to myself. If you can block those monsters inside with one move, that would be great. However, things are obviously not that simple. The huge cliff suddenly shook violently, and large and small gravel also fell from the rock wall, slamming on the ground and aroused large amounts of dust. Be careful yourself. In the chaotic scene, Masada didn't care about everyone's safety, and could only remind everyone loudly. But obviously everyone in Xiangying is not vegetarian. Yaoyorozu quickly made a steel shell and pulled Jiro in. Mina glide on the ground with acid liquid. Asui came to a safe place with a jump. So did TNT. Using his quirk, he was unscathed in the gravel that fell from the sky. But the mutation was not over yet. There was a sudden explosion at the side of the cave that was blocked by lava just now. Boom. The hard cliff was pushed aside fiercely, and a huge 4-legged snake emerged from it. This monster is similar to the python seen in the forest before, at least in size, but the difference is also very big. Not only has 4 short and thick legs, but also covered with pitch black scale armor, which is shining black in the sun, and the sharp claws are glowing with cold light, and the hard rocks are turned into powder. From the stone, the pangolin plus the python. The 4-legged snake in front of him is obviously also a product of genetic fusion. When he saw the Masada standing in front of it, he spit out the letter at him, twisting his huge body and crawling over. Advertisement. It seems that you did the boulder that blocked the exit just now. Scorching hell. However, the usual unfavorable tactics. At this time, he was squatted, his arms were scattered in an instant, and the 4-legged snake's head was placed on Masada's body with great force, and he was lifted out of the sky. What? It's not of the same level as the lizard monster just now. With a fierce stomping, the soil on the ground turned into magma, and it continued to expand. Unexpectedly, there will be creatures that are not afraid of magma. Looking at the black and shiny scale armor of the 4.8 square, it is obviously not harmed. A powerful sound wave spread towards the four-legged snake layer by layer. After being hit by the sound wave, the four-legged snake was stunned and suddenly stood still. But the four-legged snake on the opposite side was not afraid of the high temperature at all. It stepped straight into the magma, and its speed did not slow down at all. My own attack just now didn't work. I was trying to get teammates to attack. After all, the penetrating power of sound waves is very strong, and it can directly damage the inside. Seeing the monster crawling out of the magma pool and shaking his body to shake the remaining magma off, Masada's eyes became serious involuntarily. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Jiro, try a sonic attack on this monster. Jiro had been on the side to prepare for his own attack, and now he heard Masada speaking. He also plugged his headphone jack into the ground, and then launched his own quirk. Okay. Fortunately, when he found that his arm was not against the opponent, Masada had elementalized his whole body, so it only consumed physical strength, but was not injured. Before he was surprised, the four-legged snake had climbed in front of Masada, then lowered his head and pushed it over. It's powerful, the scales can insulate heat, and the defense is extremely strong, but the speed is not very exaggerated, and it can burrow into the ground, very tricky villains. Faced with this crude and primitive way of fighting, Masada did not evade, turning his arms into magma and hitting them. Chapter 154 Creatures that are not afraid of magma. Advertisement. It worked. Seeing the four-legged snake suddenly stiffened, I was overjoyed. Sure enough, every quirk has its own unique place. But the good times didn't last long. Jiro's quirk couldn't be activated for a long time. It didn't take long for the sound wave to disappear, and the four-legged snake also shook his head, looking dizzy. Take advantage of your illness to kill you. The four-legged snake is not afraid of the temperature of the magma pool. Masada can only use brute force to fight it. Heaven dog. The fist turned red like a soldering iron. Masada didn't clench his fist as usual to attack, but turned his palm into a hand knife, rushing at a very fast speed towards the four-legged snake that hadn't slowed down. Zitsa. The scarlet hand knife and the hard scales collided fiercely. There was no earth-shattering explosion and no gorgeous visual effects, but there was a sound of water being evaporated. Masada's face changed slightly, and this time he had a deeper understanding of the monster's defensive power. His most powerful attack could only be able to break through its scales. However, the sharp hand knife 23 pierced the body of the four-legged snake under the huge kinetic energy from the eruption of magma. The hot magma melted the organs and vitality in the opponent's body as usual. Hiss. The injured four-legged snake woke up from the pain in an instant, twisted his body several meters long frantically, and threw Masada out. Boom. Without wasting physical energy and becoming elemental, Jung was hitting a tree too fiercely, smashing the big tree that can only be hugged by 3 people, and then falling heavily to the ground. Jingtai, are you okay? Seeing that Masada was suddenly beaten into the air, Yaoyorozu asked anxiously. Ahem, I'm fine. How is the situation inside the cave? He spit out a mouthful of blood, wiped his mouth too much, and looked at the cave that he had sealed before. Advertisement. The dark red lava before has turned black at this time, turning into a part of the mountain and blocking it here. If there is no creature like a four-legged snake, it should be impossible to break through this obstacle head-on. Boom. As soon as the heart that had just been lifted was released, the mountain wall shook again, and then various creatures of various shapes poured out from the hole drilled by the four-legged snake. Damn it. I gritted my teeth. I was patronizing the four-legged snake before. I didn't deal with this problem. I was too upset. After all, he was the only one who had the ability to do this kind of thing. However, he couldn't help thinking about the current situation. The injured four-legged snake was even more ferocious. The eyes of the hanging triangle were covered with red blood, and the thick tail was constantly slapping the ground, making the already devastated land even more broken. 100. I'll leave that hole to you. I'll get rid of this earthworm first. The strength of the four-legged snake is very strong, far from what the girls here can handle, and in terms of body size, it is also the largest one, and maybe the strongest existence in this base. Don't worry, leave it to us. Yaoyorozu had a serious expression and quickly agreed. She also felt that she could not get in the fight on the other side. He greeted Yi Yin and Cha Cha, distributed the large number of thermal weapons he had just made, and then raised the machine gun on the ground to the hole on the mountain and fired them. Da da da. The tongue of the muzzle is constantly erupting, and the bullets are connected into a line to quickly harvest those weird creatures. Not all creatures have strong defenses, and due to the narrow passageway, the killing efficiency is extremely high. But there are still some monsters relying on their thick skins to resist the bullet storm and rush out of the cave, but waiting for them are all kinds of grenade in the hands of Cha Cha and others. Come smaller and smaller. Mina used her own high concentration of acid and powerful motor nerves to flexibly shuttle between monsters, and then took the opportunity to corrode the opponent, and white mist suddenly rose on the court. Jiro, you help me. Just now Jiro's attack had a miraculous effect on this four-legged snake, so Masada wanted to rely on her to limit the opponent's actions, and then kill him with a single blow. Jiro also slowed down at this time, and when he heard Masada's words, he plugged the headphone jack on the ground again, preparing for another sonic attack. However, The four-legged snake seemed to see that she was the culprit that caused her dizziness just now. The triangular eyes turned humanely, and the front paws dig into the ground frantically, and then the body was twisted like an inverted body, and it disappeared in an instant. On the ground. Advertisement. Having lost the target of the attack, Jiro also uttered a puzzled voice. The propagation of sound waves under the ground was very unsatisfactory, so she had nothing to do. Ran. Seeing that the four-legged snake suddenly lost its track, there was no movement at all. I was too depressed to talk about it. Anyone who has been playing for a long time, when he was just about to expand his move, his opponent suddenly slipped away, he would definitely be upset. Stomping frantically towards the ground, one after another lava pools were formed on the ground, but there was still no trace of a four-legged snake. Some helpless, although he can also turn into magma to seep into the ground and pursue it, but the situation on the side does not allow Jungtai to do so. The monsters that were eliminated were only a small part of them, and there were only a dozen monsters in total, and there seemed to be a steady stream of monsters pouring out of the hole. 347 But Yaoyorozu's firepower is not enough. No matter how much she speeds up the production, it is still not as fast as a few people consume together, and the fat reserves are almost used up. When the ammunition runs out, it may be in crisis. The anxious Masada immediately turned around, ready to support them, and block the hole by the way, otherwise it can only treat the symptoms rather than the root cause. Quickly get out of the way. Suddenly, Jiro's panicked shout reached Masada's ears, and he turned his head subconsciously, only to see a big fishy mouth. At the moment Masada turned around, Jiro saw the four-legged snake that had disappeared before. It suddenly emerged from a magma pool on the ground, and then quickly bit at him. The sharp fangs are getting bigger and bigger in the pupils, and seeing that he is about to succeed, a sly light flashes in the eyes of the four-legged snake. With a head that was half the size of Jungtae suddenly swallowed his upper body, and then the upper and lower jaws were tightly disturbed, and Jungtae turned out to be only half of his body standing on the ground. Justice. Seeing the sudden scene in front of them, everyone panicked, and the firepower in their hands stopped for a moment. The monsters got a chance to gush out from the hole. The situation suddenly becomes tricky. Chapter 155 Destroy this island. Advertisement. Could Masada be killed like this? Of course not. The four-legged snake also found that something was wrong. The thing in his mouth was not chewy at all, but his body was getting hot quickly. What it swallowed just now is naturally magma. Although its scales can protect against the temperature of magma, its internal body does not have this ability. After being invaded by magma, it rolls on the ground like crazy, and its huge body keeps hitting the ground. It seemed to have caused a small earthquake. However, the essence of magma is a melted stone. After swallowing so much magma, its body function is quickly destroyed. A few seconds later, the four-legged snake's mouth opens wide, as if it is about to vomit something in the esophagus. It came out, but only a few lines of black smoke spewed out, and the last trace of strength also departed from the body and fell to the ground. Masada's body was rapidly regenerating in the surging of magma. It didn't take long for her body to return to its original shape, looking at the hill-like corpse on the ground, and wiping the cold sweat on her head. He really didn't notice the sneak attack by the four-legged snake just now. Thanks to Jiro's reminder, he let himself elementalize half a second in advance. If there is no time for this half a second, it may be him who fell on the ground now. Seeing the girls who were already in danger on the other side, Masada also hurried over to help. Move back. While running forward, Masada shouted. Raising the right hand high, the arm suddenly began to swell, and finally a huge magma palm was formed on the top of the head. When everyone saw this scene, their first reaction was to retreat. After all, as long as they were not blind, they would know what the consequences would be if they touched the magma. While retreating backward, the attack in his hand did not stop, blocking a part of the monster from rushing out of the field in front of the cliff. Finally, everyone retreated into the forest. Masada also relieved his heart at this time, turned and looked at these strange creatures in front of them. Almost all of them have combined the characteristics of the two species, and some even have more. Now they have regarded Masada as a new villain. Keep yelling at him. It's so ugly. Looking up to the sky, the huge magma palm waved towards the sky, and countless magma turned into magma bombs, densely hitting downwards. The dazzling red light illuminates not only the sky, but also the entire cliff. Monster. Advertisement. Boom. The huge magma bombs made small pits one after another on the ground, and the splashed stray bullets shot into the monster's body like bullets. With one move, the monster that just rushed out of the cliff was completely wiped out. So strong. Looking at the flames in front of him and the falling corpses, Yaoyorozu murmured, the monsters who had fought with them just now were not the enemy of Masada. Get back on the boat. I'm going to make a big news later. The ghost knows how many such subjects are still on this island. If they are cleaned up one by one, the dead Masada will not be cleaned up, and it is very likely that they will be missed. Then the best way is to destroy this island. Although everything might be destroyed in this way, it is better than a fish slipping through the net and running away into society. Loudly instructed the girls, Masada turned around again, the fierce and violent lava turned into a ferocious tiger head, wrapped in the fist. Hurry up. It's impossible for me to have an accident.
Turning around, he gestured to Yaoyorozu, and Masada waved his fist and rushed up again. He wanted to save his energy now, so he didn't use a wide range of tricks. Yaoyorozu gritted his teeth, his eyes hesitated, but judging from the scene just now, if he stayed, people like him might not be effective at all. Instead, they would become a burden and distract Jung-tu. Cruel and cruel, Yaoyorozu greeted everyone. Hurry back to the beach. Leave it to Masada here. But, when Cha-Cha heard this, he immediately wanted to speak out against it, but suddenly saw Yaoyorozu's sad eyes in his 100 firmness, and stopped talking. I believe in him. Advertisement. In this look, there is something like this. No longer hesitating, under the cover of Masada, a group of 6 quickly ran out towards the road when they came. The distance from the coastline here is not too far. If you follow the current speed of everyone, you may be able to reach the position of the yacht in 20 minutes. Seeing that the girls finally left, the burden in Masada's heart was finally released, and he punched the monster that was flying in the air, and each punch turned into lava and fell on them. Like a meteor, the fall turned the earth into a sea of lava. However, the monsters rushed up like a fire-fighting moth. Although the strength is not as good as the 4-legged snake, even the lizard monster in the cave is inferior, but it is worse than the number and the attack. Coming from all directions, Masada, who wanted to retain his physical strength, couldn't break out of their encirclement at all, and could only continue to wave his fists. Fortunately, the lethality of Magma is also huge for them, and almost all the monsters hit by Masada's fist are killed by one punch. In this way, there was a stalemate with the monster for about 15 minutes, and Masada heard a loud noise coming from a distance. It should be the whistle sound on the cruise ship. Was it amplified by Jiro? The surrounding environment is really noisy, the wailing of monsters, the boiling of lava, the burning of trees, and all kinds of sounds are intertwined, so Masada can only listen to a general idea. The arrangement just now is almost the same. Such a dirty and filthy place has no meaning at all. Let magma purify you. Volcano eruption. And the whole body is instantly elementalized, with Masada as the center of the circle, and within 100 meters of a radius, a very high rush begins, and white steam, good plums, steam is sprayed from the ground. Boom. The underground magma exploded rapidly into the sky, like a small volcano. After reaching a certain height, it scattered around the island like fireworks, and finally covered the entire island. Over time, the surface of the earth became devastated, full of rock fragments and a lot of smoke and dust. The extremely high temperature lava flows in the gaps, like a blood-colored river. It shouldn't, my ability hasn't reached this point yet. His body has turned into a magma madam, and his figure is completely integrated into the environment at this time. Seeing the huge movement that he has caused, he has some doubts in his heart. The scale of this volcanic eruption is completely incomparable with the previous one. If the toy water gun in the training ground last time, then this time it is the high-pressure water gun used for firefighting. Chapter 156 Natural Disasters. Advertisement. Could it be that the deep underground layer of this island has a magma zone? Unlike the volcanic eruption that I simulated, what happened on the island at this time was a real natural disaster. Masada's thoughts are also inseparable. There are countless magma and lava inside the crust connected by this island, and under the inducement of Masada's quirk, it turned out to be aroused. The magma deep underground has erupted, so what is left is to change the landform and a major earthquake. The lava that spreads towards the sky like a fountain is more beautiful and moving than fireworks, and the dazzling red light enveloped the entire island. This is the power of magma, the authority of nature. Soon, the island was submerged by a large amount of magma erupting from the Earth's crust. The high-temperature steam spread across the island, and thick black smoke was also mixed in it, spreading to the surroundings. The magma sea spread to the surrounding seas, and the sea water seems to be evaporating. Fortunately, under the sign of Masada's eyes, the women have already sailed the yacht far away from this sea area. Now they are located at a distance of several kilometers from the island, but even so, the heat from the pavement still makes human skin has a kind of pain. This is too exaggerated. Masada, does he want to destroy this island? Looking at the island surrounded by the fire curtain in front of 350, Yaoyorozu said with a shocked expression on his face. Even Yaoyorozu, who is very familiar with Masada, is doing this, and the rest of the people are even more embarrassed. Mina and Yi Yin are even speechless. Gentle, just like the wife of a big brother next door, actually created such a horrible scene. Xiao Masada will be fine, right? Asui looked at the island that had become a magma habitat, and said with some worry. That's not true. Masada himself is the incarnation of magma, and magma can't harm him. Yaoyorozu said with certainty that she is not worried at this time. If she is too dangerous, then it must be the threat posed by the monsters, but those monsters must be buried in the magma ocean. Advertisement. Things are just as she imagined. Except for Masada, there is no one living on this island. It melted to ashes. Covered by thick lava, this island, CDEI, has become a lifeless desert island, and it may take hundreds of years to regain its vitality and return to its former appearance. In the center of the island, in the magma spout, a group of brighter magma gradually twisted and turned into a human form. At this time, the ground no longer vibrates, and the magma under the ground has erupted completely. Looking at the hell-like scene around, I exhaled too much.
After putting on a thin layer of magma clothing, I walked towards the outskirts of the island. Go. Ming. The loud enlightenment sounded on the sea, and it was Yaoyorozu and the others who steered the yacht close to the island. They didn't wait for them to get to the shore completely, but they turned into magma from the waist down, and rushed straight to the sky, and then flew forward with the propelling force of magma, and finally stopped their figure above the yacht and fell to the side. Above the sea. Thump. Masada naturally didn't dare to board the boat directly. Although the deck of the yacht is not made of wood, it is hard to say whether it can withstand the power of magma, so jumping into the sea and letting the body cool down is the best choice. In a burst of steam, Masada popped his head out of the sea, grabbed the rope beside the yacht and climbed up. Nailed it. Wiping his face, shaking off the sea water on his head, Masada made a pose that he thought of as a shouju and said to the girls who came around. Unexpectedly, what he got was not the admiring gaze, but the curious gaze in a few weird lines, and even a few people turned their heads when they saw him, not looking at him at all. I can't figure out the way. Could it be that my opening remarks weren't handsome enough? Or the sight just now didn't shock them? Shouldn't it? The scene of the Gango volcano eruption scared me. I was a little confused. It's really exciting. When I saw those monsters, you didn't know how scared I was. It was like I was in a movie. As the sun sets, the yacht swings in the golden red sunset and drifts away. Advertisement. When the sea breeze blew, Masada also felt as if suddenly cool, and when she looked down, she didn't even have a fig leaf on her body. The scene was very embarrassing. Yi Yin yelled and screamed. She might be the easiest one from start to finish. Because of the quirk, she didn't get many attacks. Instead, she secretly killed many monsters. At this time, the sky is almost evening, and the sky is even more bloody under the magma that has not completely cooled down on the island. The thick volcanic ash floats on the top of the island for a long time, making the entire island more full. A breath of death. In the end, Yaoyorozu spoke, as if using a lot of courage. Yaoyorozu blushed and said awkwardly, "What have you done? Put it aside first, can you put on your clothes before you talk?" I didn't expect Masada to be shy. The island of Cha-Cha said with emotion. From here, the island has a touch of beauty, as if it was gestating a new life in death. It was clear that magma was used to cover the body just now. Could it be said that when jumping into the sea, the magma cooled down and fell into the sea? Yaoyorozu sighed, originally wanted to inquire about the situation on the island, but now that he was rectified by Masada, his interest was completely lost, and he shook his head and walked into the driver's cabin, and started the yacht toward the pier when it came. Drive. Asui's tone is still the same as usual, but there is a blush on her face. Cha-Cha's head at this time is already like a boiling kettle, constantly steaming, and the blood-filled face makes people suspect that she will faint in the next second. Masada now only feels that he wants to find a gap to get in. If it is only seen by Yaoyorozu Baihei Cha-Cha, after all, they have been living together for so long, but there are a total of 6 people here. If there is no such exhibitionism, it is everyone will feel embarrassed. The news from Xiangying has also come. Someone will come to us tomorrow to find out the situation. It seems that this vacation can only end here. Unexpectedly, this time I came out and encountered such a thing. Fortunately, there are Masada classmates, otherwise we might be buried here. He hurriedly covered the key parts with his hands, and rushed into the room on the yacht in a panic, and then closed the door severely. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Hey, Chapter 157 Not a Coincidence. Advertisement. After the thrilling incidents on the island, everyone was no longer interested in having fun. After having a hasty dinner in the villa, they went back to their rooms to rest. The battle this afternoon made everyone very anxious. Early the next morning, Xiangying and the Okinawa police station came to inquire about this matter. Out of the importance of this matter, Xiangying sent Masada and their old acquaintances, All Might and Aizawa Shota. Masada was sitting face to face with the two in a secret room, while the other girls were being questioned by the local police in another room. Really, it has caused me so much trouble after the summer vacation. Aizawa Shota was holding his head and complaining to Jung Tai at this time. He was planning to stay at home and live together. Who knew that he was suddenly scheduled to work overtime? The culprit, Masada, smiled a little embarrassedly. The big movement yesterday is not only the appearance of genetic beasts on the island, but more importantly, Masada's last action. An unnamed small island in the waters near Okinawa turned to ashes in the volcanic eruption, ashes. According to the local people's understanding, the scale of the underground volcano eruption is very huge. Experts pointed out that this small island is located at the border boundary of the plates that make up the lithosphere. Public opinion surveys show that residents of Okinawa City attach great importance to this incident and expressed doubts about their own safety. Professional Hero S is handling this matter properly. Such magnificent fireworks can not only be seen by a few Masada people. The huge roar and exaggerated special effects can be seen clearly by tourists and local residents in the coastal circle. Even if one day has passed, the volcanic ash is still hovering in the sky. Never disperse in China. The social response was also huge. The keen reporters flocked to report immediately. All the headlines of the newspapers this morning were swiped by the volcanic eruption. After all, this volcanic eruption did not receive any warning. Therefore, the relevant departments are also busy, and ordinary citizens are even more panicked. Who knows the week where they live? There is an active volcano nearby, so you will feel uneasy. Advertisement. Well, I've said it all. In fact, my ability is only an incentive. What really caused things to become so big is actually that there is really magma under that island, but this time I basically sprayed it all at once. It must be safe to come down. Last night I called Zhang Masada and reported everything that happened today in detail. I came here today to make a transcript and conduct a collection of evidence. You are relaxed, we are about to get busy, my vacation. Speaking of the holidays, Mr. Aizawa felt depressed again. It seemed that he really wanted to relax. But what's more important to pay attention to is the genetic beasts that appeared on the island. According to what you said, the number that appeared this time is extremely large, and the strength is also good. All Might pays attention to the other aspect. He is now extremely suspicious of the cooperation between the Doctor and Allforone. Whether it is the last hero's killer or this genetic beast riot, there seems to be his shadow. Yes, if it weren't for too many, I wouldn't take such an extreme method. After all, too many ants can kill an elephant, and there are a few of them that are quite strong. Thinking of the four-legged snake that launched a sneak attack on him in the magma, Masada's expression became serious. At that time, it was really thrilling. In fact, just the day before yesterday, similar creatures appeared in Kyushu, but that batch is obviously not as powerful as yours. At best, it can only be regarded as a stronger beast, and there is no gene fusion characteristics, so I didn't pay attention to it at the time. Now it seems that there may be a connection. Quote, slowly speaking out a news that Masada and others didn't know, All Might thought about it silently. Is it premeditated? Asked the somewhat surprised Masada. Externally, this volcanic eruption was designated as an accident. Of course, how to fool the masses is the matter of experts, and they don't want to learn too much. As for the use of quirk by Masada and others in this incident, because it was for the protection of their own personal safety and did not cause any casualties, there are very few insiders, so there is not too much investigation, just writing last review. He clenched his fist and saw the horror of that power with his own eyes. Jung was completely fascinated by the beauty of violence. He even felt that All Might could not survive in the center of that kind of volcanic eruption. The power of advertisement. Since there were too few clues available, All Might and Aizawa Shota left after finishing the transcript hastily and completing the task for the police. Aizawa Sensei apparently also knew about the news, and said blankly, I haven't found any contact in it yet. The beasts in Kyushu also appeared suddenly from the wild, but they were all quickly rushed to the professional hero's. Stopped in the suburbs, and after checking the nearby places, no suspicious traces were found, as if it was out of thin air. It was originally expected to be a 7-day vacation trip, but today it came to an end. Seeing what happened yesterday from the news, the parents of the classmates also called to ask about the situation, so everyone had to go home. And the deserted island you are on is obviously a stronghold. Someone has been on this island a few years ago, but nothing strange happened, so this stronghold is likely to be newly built this time. You found out the accidental hitting and collision. After finally letting them understand that there was no accident, Masada recalled the scene of the underground volcano erupting at that time. Beg for flowers. Living together in the forest, it's starting. The aftermath of the island and the investigation of the strongholds on the island were also handed over to the professional hero's, and this incident passed without risk. Point 0. After returning to a familiar home, Masada stepped forward to hug them with his parents' worries and gazes mixed with joy, and told the interesting things that happened in the past few days. Of course, some things must be hidden, otherwise they will only let themselves. The parents only increased their worries. Yaoyorozu Baihei Cha-cha also returned to their homes and reunited with their parents. After a few days of rest, all the students received news from the school. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. If I can also control the magma on the surface, no one can be my opponent at all, right? Perhaps destroying this world is just a matter of thought. Chapter 158 End of Holiday Trip. Advertisement. Masada, hurry up and tell me about your experience these past few days. As the only boy, do you have any special treatment? On the day when the forest stayed together, everyone returned to the class. The classmates who hadn't seen for more than a week also greeted enthusiastically. Just now, it was Grape who was pulling Masada's clothes and asking excitedly. Preferential treatment. Does the swimsuit count? The seaside is really a nice place. Pretending to think about the question of grapes, Masada replied seriously. Oh, by the way, there are also sunscreen or something, playing in the ocean, beach volleyball, all in all, it was really good this time. After hearing the words of Masada, Grape's eyes widened, and saliva came out of her mouth. And then, are there any photos? Masada suddenly looked raised, and it seems that this little 3590 lust can't be changed in this life. No, even if I have me, I won't show it to you. Give it up. By the way, you answer the next question. The girls in the class are all in good shape, so shut up. After speaking, Masada pulled off a piece of tape from Ciro, who was sitting next to her, and stuck it to Grape's mouth. Woohoo! Seeing as if there was something to say, Masada suddenly felt a sense of comfort in the Grape's with bloodshot eyes. It's great that you are okay. I read that the location of the volcanic eruption in the news is near your vacation, right? It's really dangerous. Green Valley came over and was so relieved to see Masada, who was intact, because all the girls in the class posted photos on social software, so everyone knew that Masada and his party were in Okinawa. Ah, the eruption of the volcano is really spectacular. I don't know when I will be able to do that. Without explaining more to them, some things will only become more troublesome the more you explain. Masada took this matter over. It's impossible to think about this kind of thing. How can personal power be compared with nature? Kaminari looked at the Grape that was constantly tearing the tape on his mouth with a wretched look. While talking, he stepped forward and pulled it off directly. Advertisement. Ah, Grape was originally slowly tearing off the tape, so as to ensure that the skin was not torn. As a result, Kaminari came here and the whole mouth became red and swollen, especially the lips looked like two sausages. Ha 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 ha. When the atmosphere in the class was enthusiastic, Mr. Aizawa walked into the classroom with his pockets in his pockets. Okay, go to meet at the school gate, and then take the bus to the place where you live together. The most anticipated thing came. Everyone quickly stopped the discussion, brought their luggage and came to the school gate. On the way, they also ran into Class B, who also came out of the class. The two classes can be said to be like fire and water during the sports meeting, so the relationship between them is not very good. There is no too much language at all, especially Bakugo, the naked eyes full of disdain. It just makes the people of Class B feeling mad. However, Masada and Kendo, who are also monitors, are due to their work on weekdays, and they have some contacts, and the relationship is pretty good. Moreover, Kendo and Yaoyorozu are also in the same place for on-site internships, so they also have some common topics. Ale, isn't this a member of Class A? Someone in Class A wants tutoring. Just as Junta and Kento exchanged ideas about the arrangement of the forest dorm, the Wujian grandfather of Class B suddenly rushed out and stood in front of the people of Class A. Flicked his hair, Wujian looked surprised, and said in an exaggerated tone, "This is unscientific. Shouldn't Class A be much better than Class B? Someone dropped out of the course." The loud-sounding object space naturally attracted everyone's attention. Hearing this constant ridicule, Masada saw that Kento's face went dark, visible with the naked eye. He flashed behind Wujian quietly, hitting Wujian's neck with a clean hand knife, and Wujian, which was still yelling just now, instantly softened. Feel sorry. With an embarrassing smile on her face, Kento carried Wujian and walked back to her class. She really didn't understand. It was clear that Wujian was also a member of the school, and she could still mock others in this way. Impressive. It's completely like a big sister. Seeing that Wujian, who seems to be not afraid of the sky, has no resistance under Kento's hands, Class A exclaimed. Advertisement. The usual smile of Mimi disappeared on his face, replaced by anger and unwillingness. Originally, this batch of experimental subjects was prepared to be released to various places by Kurogiri on the next day. I didn't expect that such a big change happened just one day later. These genetic monsters were created by him in combination with the research results of his doctor during this period. They were originally designed to test the actual situation of the 4.8 battle, but they all turned into fly ash in the magma, which also means that he has been in these few months. His efforts were completely in vain. But has this little ghost grown to this point? A teacher with this level of strength can't do it. No, he can't suddenly become so strong. It must be with the help of outsiders, but the original plan has to be revised. Quote. The stronghold storing a large number of experimental subjects was destroyed in a sudden volcanic eruption. What a joke. This is the kid that adults are very optimistic about. Igarashi is too. Forget it. After all, you can only be a little bit cheerful now. In a very ordinary rental house, an ordinary-looking man looked at the big screen in front of him, slammed the mouse on the table, and said with a look of disbelief. Muttering to himself, Nishio Hunt's hands banged frantically on the keyboard, and only this kind of voice remained in the room. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. And on the screen in front of him, the video playing is exactly the scene of Masada and his group entering the cave. As an important stronghold, monitoring is a must. The small island that had not experienced serious disasters for hundreds of years was destroyed on the day Masada was on the island. With the addition of the quirk of Masada Magma, Nishio Hunter didn't believe it at all. Mr. Aizawa was originally hitting the tons, but the sound in the car was really noisy, so he could only give up this plan, looked at his watch, then turned around and looked at the crowd of people, and decisively gave up what he wanted. Said action statement. Even after getting in the car, everyone didn't stop, they were still chattering and making noise. Even Mina and others, who knew they were going to take devil-style tutoring, laughed happily. At this time, the school bus also arrived. Following the head teacher of their class, everyone boarded the bus and went to the place of accommodation. Although it looks like an unexpected volcanic eruption, it is absolutely inseparable from this Igarashi. Nishio Hunter narrowed his eyes at the scene of Masada punching the flying lizard monster. This man is truly Allforon's right-hand man, Nishio Hunter. Chapter 159 The Forest Retreat begins. Advertisement. After driving for an hour, the bus unknowingly drove into a deep mountain and old forest, and continued to drive along the winding road for a while. The bus finally stopped on a platform with a wide view. Seeing the car stalled, everyone got out of the car one after another and looked around on the platform. This place is halfway up the mountain, and looking down is the lush woods, and the weather today is also very good. It immediately gives people a refreshing feeling. Are you going to rest here? I stretched my waist greatly, and leaned against the fence too much and said that it was tiring to ride the car all the time. It should be, but why didn't you see the people in Class B? Yaoyorozu Bai curiously said, if you want to take a break, shouldn't the two classes be together? The blinking eyes lock you in. Cute meow bazooka. Wild wild. Quote. Pussycats. Quote. At this time, in a black car that was also parked on this platform, suddenly two women dressed in costumes like idol singers sprang out, shouting strange slogans while posing a pose. The 23 people who were still chatting and relaxing were shocked instantly. So ashamed. In addition to anxiously looking for the grapes in the toilet, there is also Midori Valley, who is inexplicably excited. Everyone is spitting in their hearts, and then looking at the facial expression of Aizawa-sensei who walks forward. Yo, Eraser. Long time no see. The two women met the old acquaintances and greeted them vigorously. I also asked them hello. Aizawa-sensei turned his head and introduced to everyone. They are the ones who are in charge of taking care of you this time. Professional Hero S. Pussycats. Advertisement. That's right. Green Valley's frenzy at this time. Obviously he has recognized this combination long ago. The Hero S team of 4-person and 4-person team is particularly good at seeking help in the mountains and has been active in the industry. Year. Firms like this kind of plural Hero S have existed for a long time, but there are often differences in direction and various problems caused by income distribution, so this kind of team nature of Hero S has become less and less. I have to say that their combination is also a miracle. I seem to be a little bit impressed. I remember which issue of the newspaper seemed to have published information about the marriage of a female Hero S who seemed to be a member of this group. Jung Tai recalled that after all, it was really easy for Hero S to find a spouse. It was very rare to publish such naked news, so he was particularly impressed by this incident. However, before he finished speaking, a cat's paw appeared in front of his eyes, and the Masada who was about to turn her head subconsciously, before seeing the scene in front of him, his head was pressed against a mountain by the cat's paw. Ming Ming. Seeing Masada who was struggling constantly in Uexingro, the North American shorthair cat had a black line and scratched Masada's neck with a few paws, and finally let him go. My mother will always be 18 years old. He could breathe again and was panting too much. Just now he almost thought he was going to faint by being asked, and he was embarrassed to be so embarrassed. This area is all our land, and the place where you stay is at the foot of the mountain. The other of the two, the Mandalay cat, walked out at this time, walked to the edge of the fence and pointed to a very distant hill, dozens of kilometers away from where everyone is now, looking at the route. The students in Class A suddenly had an ominous premonition when they couldn't see where they were living together. I said we should get in the car. Yaoyorozu saw the dignified atmosphere, smiled awkwardly, and then leaned toward the bus. The rest of the people also moved silently, even Minda, who blushed because he couldn't find the toilet they ran over on short legs. They didn't want to walk through this vast forest. Spray. It seems that resistance has developed, but it's a pity that the co-supplying has already begun. Seeing the classmates with uniform movements, Mr. Aizawa grabbed his hair. As expected, one method was used too much, even a fool would no longer believe it. Just when Yaoyorozu Bai's foot was only a few steps away from the car door, the North American shorthair cat suddenly flashed in front of her, and then pressed his hands on the ground and activated his own quirk. Boom. Advertisement. The ground instantly became like quicksand. Before everyone could react, the mud rolled everyone into the air like a wave, and threw them to the ground below. This is private land, so please use the quirk to your heart's content. From now on, go to the place of accommodation in 3 hours. In addition, I would like to remind you that this forest is called Warcraft Forest. Quote. The Mandalay cat stood on the edge of the platform, looking at the stunned people below with a smile on his face, and then turned his head. The time now is 9:30 in the morning, so it should be around 12 o'clock at the earliest, right? Suddenly someone who shouldn't be standing here appeared in front of him, and the Mandalay cat let out a marvel. I said, Igarashi, you also have to participate in this training, don't be lazy here. Aizawa Shota looked at Masada who was also standing on the edge of the platform, still winking her eyes, and said helplessly. When did you run out? The North American shorthair cat asked in shock. She 350 just saw that Masada was standing at the back. It stands to reason that she should have been swept down by the mud wave, and she didn't keep her hands just now, although she didn't have much lethality, but the scale is definitely one of a kind. This kind of meaningless thing is a waste of time. Besides, as the only student who escaped, shouldn't I give some rewards? Seeing that Mr. Aizawa showed no mercy, he was complaining too much. As for how I ran out, it is naturally because I can fly. Turning around and jumping, Masada jumped directly off the cliff, smashing a cobweb-like crack on the ground. The North American shorthair cat and the Mandalay cat looked at it for a moment. Wow, there are monsters. The two who just wanted to run to the fence and wanted to see Masada's situation, heard Masada's voice from below. Before everyone came, North American shorthair cats arranged a large number of earthen beasts in the forest, which were specially used to block the pace of the students. Behind a tree, behind Minda, who was about to release the water with a comfortable expression. Careful. Hearing the anxious shouts of his classmates, Mineta turned his head and was stunned. Chapter 160 Sad Grapes. Advertisement. Shotgun. He waved a few lava bombs at random, and directly pierced through the beast of earth. Before Mineta realized what had happened, the beast behind him turned into stones and shattered. The Mandalay cat and North American shorthair on the platform looked surprised at Masada, who suddenly shot. Are all freshmen so scary? Don't think too much, Igarashi is a special case. Seeing the performance of the two of them, Aizawa Shota also understood what they were thinking, embracing her arms, and lazily said. You need to know that Xiangying is currently inside, but they all agree that he is the most likely person to take the All Might class. The North American shorthair cat listened to Aizawa Shota's words and licked the corner of his mouth. Oh. Even you have such a high evaluation of him. I feel a little excited. Leaving her here alone, Mandalay cat took his nephew Mitsuda and Aizawa Shota, and took the bus one step ahead. At this time, Mineta screamed in hindsight. He seemed to have turned into black and white now, and the loud noise from behind just now made him panic and at the same time brought a sense of invigoration. That's right, now his pants and the ground are already wet. No girl will like me anymore, my life is over. Let's go to the place where we live. Looking at Mineta, who was holding on to the trees and sinking into depression, Masada said with some embarrassment that after all, he also partly caused the current situation, and the girls have turned their heads away. This scene is really a bit unbearable. As soon as the first monster was solved, the second and third monsters had already arrived one after another, leaving no time for everyone to breathe. Magma B**************** D. I have killed more beasts than anyone else. Bakugo was full of anger at this time and roared towards Jungtai, and the movement of his hand did not stop, blowing a monster in front of it into pieces, and the bomb was constantly releasing ice, and then the whole body of Green Valley was flashing green. Hikari rushed forward with Iida and smashed the frozen monster into gravel. It's really tricky, little Bakugo has to come on. Masada stood behind the three, looking at the three who were constantly attacking, and said with a pleasant expression that he is very comfortable now. If it were not because Yaoyorozu Baihei Cha-Cha was still here, he would have flown directly to the place of accommodation. Went. Advertisement. But he has no plans to do it. After all, these monsters are too weak for him. If he really wants to fight, he can break them into pieces without using the quirk, so he still leaves it to the classmates. Practice your hands. Yaoyorozu Baihei Cha-Cha was full of enthusiasm. After experiencing the life and death crisis of the previous days, the fighting strength of all the girls in the class has improved a lot. This is a good time to test their own strength. This is really going to fix us to death. Hiroshima wiped the sweat from his forehead, then turned around and shattered the monster that was behind him. This way, our speed is too slow, and we will be exhausted before we reach the meeting point. What should we do? We all know this problem, but isn't there no way to move forward slowly? Kaminari rolled his eyes at him and spread his hands. He is also very leisurely, because his clicks have no effect on these stone monsters and can only act as a protected role. Why don't you be too handsome? We might be able to catch up with lunch like this. Turning his head to look at the wife who seemed to be outing, Kaminari said with a mean smile. Shut up. I don't need the help of that Magma B**************************************** D. Bakugo immediately got angry when he heard it, and the power of the explosion increased to a level, and the speed of everyone's advancement was a point faster in an instant.
Yes, if you are too shot, then our special training will be meaningless. Yaoyorozu quickly created a grenade in 100 hands, and said while attacking. The other girls also nodded. Until now, they still can't forget that Masada is no longer a powerful existence in their hearts like the apocalyptic scene on that small island. Don't let your guard down, a large number of them are here. Struggling at the forefront, he suddenly spoke in silence, and everyone looked at it.
I saw 4 huge stone monsters appear in front of the boom. These 4 monsters are obviously different from the previous ones. The lines are very hard just by looking at them. Here too. Me too. Advertisement. Die. There is only one explanation for this unreasonable situation, and that is to force Jungtu. After all, he is also a member of Class A, and there is no reason to pass the special training comfortably. Sure enough, after the smoke dissipated, the head of the earth monster was just a layer of skin that had been blown up. He shook his head and continued to walk towards the crowd. Masada reminded out loud that he could feel these monsters as if they were coming towards him. Seeing that there was no movement in the smoke and dust, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that these new monsters were nothing more than a good-looking shelf. A monster with a hideous face and a gleam of minerals all over, rushed out of the dark woods with its teeth and claws, and kept approaching Class A. It seems to be right, these few monsters are specially prepared for me. Otherwise, our class will be destroyed here. Solved. After stretching his body, Masada walked out from the center of the crowd. Although the previous attacks were continuous, but in general, everyone in Class A was able to persevere. Obviously, it was an arrangement made after considering everyone's comprehensive strength. But this time is different. Just one head can make a lot of people feel helpless, let alone wait for the 12 heads to attack together. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. The other Midori Valley, Iida also shouted afterwards. Before the others had time to react, they found that 4 identical monsters appeared on both sides of them, faintly surrounding them. Everyone panicked immediately. Even Bakugo, who was known for his attacking power, failed to kill this monster with a single blow. Good lees. It would be more difficult for the rest of the people to match up. After all, there are not many combatants in the class. It's like Kaminari and Yi Yin, almost like an invisible person, and the quirk of grapes can't play a role in this kind of battle. Everyone's expressions immediately became ugly, and even the booming brows were frowned, and 12 strengthened monsters appeared at once, even he felt troublesome. Quote. The huge explosion sound accompanied by smoke completely covered the head of the earth monster. However, Bakugo just rushed out of the crowd regardless of the amount, waving his arm and patted at the head of a monster. Under his body, the earth monster didn't care about that stickiness at all. Don't take it lightly, these monsters are not as easy to deal with before. Chapter 161 Unconvinced Bakugo. Advertisement. Sure enough, when Masada came out, these earthen monsters no longer paid attention to the people of Class A standing in the same place, but turned to Masada, and settled him firmly. It looks like someone is behind it. It should be the North American shorthair cat just now, right? Looking at the earth monster that hadn't rushed over for a long time, I was thinking about it too much. Since you can't come, then I'll go. Looking blankly at the 12 monsters that surrounded him, Masada's shoulders poured out a lot of violent magma, covering both arms. Experience the eruption and destruction of magma. As soon as the crimson shoes stepped on, Masada flew towards one of the monsters like a meteorite. Spitfire. During the flight, the right hand kept getting bigger, and in the end it became a fist the size of this monster. And this earth beast did not sit still, lifted the whole body high, and then slammed down and collided with Masada's fist. Boom. At the moment of the collision, the gap between the two became obvious, and the earth monsters couldn't hold the huge power at all, and they kept backing away. Get out of here. With a roar of 350, the magma on the shoulders gushed again, and the ultimate explosive power was displayed at this time. The original red fist color was once again brighter. Was submerged by large magma. How could the gap be so big? Seeing that Jung was too relaxed, he killed a monster. Bakugo yelled unwillingly. Regardless of everyone's dissuasion, he used the explosion to push his body to the top of the monster with his back facing him. With his left hand gripping the right wrist tightly, the blue veins on his arm even showed up, like a stubborn centipede. Feeling that his power accumulation was almost done, Bakugo pointed his hand at the monster below him. Advertisement. Big Bang, Howitzer. Without the aid of combat uniforms, Bakugo used the most powerful move, and the skyrocketing explosion fire was particularly conspicuous in the forest. When the smoke and dust dissipated, the earth monster had broken into several large pieces, falling apart and falling to the ground. Humph. Smiling triumphantly, Bakugo shook his numb right hand and looked at Masada provocatively. However, he originally wanted to demonstrate, but found that in just a short period of time, Masada had actually eliminated 2 other monsters, and at this time he was already rushing to the third. Little Bakugo did a great job. Put more oil and you can catch up with me. Feeling Bakugo's gaze, Masada still had time to look back at him at this time, and gave an encouraging thumb, and then with a burning fist, he pierced the elusive monster in front of him. Quote. The classmates looked at Bakugo, who was about to lose his mind, and felt helpless. Little Bakugo always seems to be deflated in front of Xiao Masada. Asui said his own voice, which was also unanimously approved by everyone. It didn't take too much effort. Masada completely solved these monsters. To be honest, these things are bullying people because of their large size and high defense. The agility is really bad. Live, but encountering a Masada who can crush them, there is no way to fight back. On the other hand, the North American shorthair cat manipulating the earthen beast opened his eyes, and the shock in his eyes has not disappeared. The 12 earthen beasts are made of minerals, and she knows how strong she is. As a killer of heroes, I didn't expect to be completely destroyed by a high school student in such a short period of time. To be honest, this is for her. It's a bit of a blow. After the journey, Masada did not make any more moves. Although the rest of the students were a little tired, they still struggled through waves of offensives and moved forward slowly. It is worth mentioning that the quirk of Cha-Cha is unexpectedly easy to use against CDEI, these earth beasts. Using their dexterous body skills, as long as you touch them, you can throw them into the air, and then touch the quirk, the earth beasts. It fell into pieces, which also reduced the pressure on the entire team a lot. Unknowingly, the sun had already set on the other side of the mountain, and half of the sky was dyed red by the afterglow. It's finally here. Advertisement. The child Lugu said was Mitsui, who had been following the Mandalay cat before. He was estimated to be 4 or 5 years old, wearing a cap, and his eyes looked fierce. Of course, Masada still looks very leisurely, but his stomach is really hungry. After all, he didn't even eat lunch. The misunderstood Mandalay cat quickly explained, and beckoned to Yutai. Come and get acquainted with all the brothers and sisters, and we will get along for a week later. Speaking of which, who is that child? Is it Mandalay cat your child? Lugu has been a little curious since before. In his impression, this hero's combination has no children. The rest of the people immediately took a breath of air conditioning. They didn't expect that this little dagger shot so fiercely that it turned out to be a one-shot to defeat the enemy, especially the boys. It feels cold below. And I didn't expect that, as the nephew of the Mandalay cat, he would say, hate hero's. The short-hair cat pointed at it. Bakugo, Midori Valley, Iida and Cha-Cha, the 5 classmates here, you are really good. Of course, there is also the most powerful classmate Igarashi. To be honest with you, the strength of stunned me a lot. But maybe Grape would like this way of greeting very much. Before Lugu finished speaking, Yutai suddenly waved his fist blankly and punched hard at the key part of Lugu. In an instant, Lugu turned his eyes white, and fell softly to the ground, as if he was just boiled. The cooked prawns kept rolling with their waists bowed. I didn't expect you to defeat my native monsters more easily than expected, especially one. Speaking of the back, the short-hair cat ran to a few people with a look of excitement, and used his own unique way to mark them. It was too cold. It was obviously a person who was past the marriageable period, and it turned out to be like a man. The same as girls. However, Yutai was obviously showing no mercy, and stood indifferently and refused to move. Mr. Aizawa and the Mandalay cat also walked out of the office and stood with the short-hair cat and looked at everyone. Ah, no, this kid is my nephew. At the place where they are staying, the North American short-hair cat is sticking in the waist at this time, watching the wolf fox's unbearable face is covered with tired classmates, said with a smile. Midoriya was a little curious. He walked over and bent down and stretched out his hand and said, I'm Midoriya Izuku from the Hero's Department of Shongying High School, please take care of. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. I really look forward to what you guys will look like in 3 years. Chapter 162 Spa. Advertisement. Tai Tai was about to leave at this time, but after not taking a few steps, she found that her body was out of control, and then she was carried into the air. You are very rude, kid, but others are greeting you. Masada grabbed Ma Tai by the shoulder and said to him. Humph. Gazed fiercely at Masada, Guangtai snorted. I don't want to be with you guys who aspire to become heroes, okay? I heard this too, not only didn't think it was cool, but even wanted to laugh. I said, kid, how old are you? You want to go together, and what's wrong with hero's? Hero's is very uncomfortable. Respectful professional. Who knows, after listening to Masada's words, Yutai seemed to be stimulated in some way. His feet kept kicking towards Masada, his hands didn't get honest, and he kept waving towards Masada, but it was basically enough because of his height. Nothing. Seeing this, Jung smiled too maliciously, and then let him struggle in midair, but just didn't let him down. Well, it is true that Kota did something wrong. I will apologize for him. Seeing the two people who seemed to be arguing, the Mandalay cat stepped forward, looking at Tai Tai, who was still too big and staring with some worry. Yes, Masada, what do you care about with a child? Put him down quickly. Yaoyorozu Hyaku also tugged on the arm of the wife and persuaded him. Masada originally wanted to tease this somewhat weird little child, so naturally he slowly put him on the ground, but as soon as Kodai hit the ground, he hit Masada in the face. Faced with such an attack, Masada would not stand stupidly like Lugu, his head flashed through his fist. I said, little devil, it's enough. Although it seems that you have a story, this is not a reason for others to tolerate you. Okay, stop making trouble, and quickly remove the luggage from the bus. Mr. Aizawa was a little impatient while waiting on the side, and said, after sending the luggage to the room, go to the cafeteria to eat, then take a bath, and finally sleep. This is your arrangement tonight. The real good show is tomorrow. It's about to be staged, and tonight is your last good night's sleep during this period of time, so hurry up and act. The originally a little stiff atmosphere was resolved under the urging of Aizawa Shota. Under the guidance of the North American short-hair cat, everyone walked towards the room with their luggage. This time the room is one person and one room, and it was quite comfortable to live in. After washing her face casually, Masada walked to the cafeteria and joined everyone. Advertisement. Wow, it looks very good. Masada arrived at the cafeteria relatively late, and Yaoyorozu was already sitting in his seat and beckoning to him. Going over and sitting down, looking at the people who were gorging and pulling their rice bowls next to him, Junta also felt that he was already hungry, and screamed more happily, and immediately picked up the food Yaoyorozu had prepared for him in advance and ate it. The dinner is made of some specialty products in the mountains. Needless to say, big fish and meat, and some wild vegetables that Masada has never seen before, but the taste is very good. Yaoyorozu has a very large fat consumption today, and he is eating high-calorie foods at this time. Do you have any plans for the evening? With stuff in his mouth, Jungtai asked to the side. Swallow what's in your mouth first when you speak. Yaoyorozu sighed when he was too vague. It should be going to a hot spring. I heard Mandalay Cat said that there is a natural hot spring here that is very good. Oh, that's really good. Do you have any plans to bring me? Masada's expression immediately enriched. Soaking in hot springs was more exciting than being on the beach. To be honest, he was a little moved. Don't even think about it. We girls do group activities. While the two were discussing, there were lively yelling from the side. Rice is so delicious. It's not lost to the craftsmanship of gourmet heroes at all. Hiroshima swallowed frantically. The rice bowl in his hand was empty after a while. One more bowl. Hiroshima next to him was also in tears, as if someone who hadn't eaten for 3 days suddenly came to a full dinner, but Masada really didn't understand what he was tired. In the Warcraft forest, he is at best as a bait, right? Maybe this is really tiring. Looking at Hiroshima, who didn't know how many times he went to serve the meal, he thought to himself. You must be too hungry. Eat more if you like. The short-haired cat who was in charge of serving everyone is also very happy. She cooks most of the dishes. The Mandalay Cat on the other side is still busy. Mata, help me move the vegetables over there. Advertisement. For flowers. Oh, Kotai, who had been secretly looking at everyone at the door, heard the Mandalay Cat calling him, and walked in slowly. His face was very stinky, and he glanced at the grandma who was eating from time to time, as if he was afraid of being discovered, so just take a look, then look back, and then look again later. However, this awkward acting skill is naturally unable to escape Masada's eyes. At this time, he is also a little confused. From all the actions just now, this child named Yutai is not like the kind of uncultivated child, but very mentally mature. It seems that some encounters have indeed happened to him, which caused him to become what he is now. Looking at Kota who was walking out holding a box, Masada stopped thinking about these things and concentrated on destroying the food in front of him. Everyone has some tragic encounters. Masada is not a god, and it is impossible to help everyone. After drinking and eating, I heard from the girls that there is a hot spring here, so the boys also decided to relax and relieve the fatigue of the body today. Unexpectedly, Hiroshima, your hair down is unexpectedly beautiful. Jungtai, who had buried her entire body in the water, suddenly seemed to have discovered some new world, and said in surprise. Hiroshima, with his hair up and down, naturally hangs down in the hot springs. He doesn't have the buff with explosive head like Bakugo, which makes his original tough face become a little softer. Ha ha ha, that's right, this little girl, are you in the wrong place? Kaminari, who was teasing Ojiro's tail, turned his head to look at Hiroshima after hearing what Mrs. Tae said, and then burst into an amazing laugh. You two guys. Hiroshima, who has always claimed to be an iron-blooded man, immediately became angry, shaking his arms frantically, and a large amount of spray was thrown at the two of them. You kid, are you looking for death? As a result, both Masada and Kaminari escaped the attack by diving to the bottom of the water. Instead, Bakugo, who had already gone ashore to dry his body, was unfortunately recruited. Huh, what can you do with me? Hiroshima would definitely not back down at this time, and bit his scalp and went back. Court death. I didn't expect to be too angry during the day, but Hiroshima would be angry at night. Bakugo couldn't bear it anymore. He threw the towel and jumped into the water to fight. Long. Chapter 163 Unbearable Kaminari. Advertisement. For a time, the scene was chaotic. At first, it was only Bakugo and Hiroshima, and finally affected other people. In the end, it turned into a splashing battle, with screams and screams of gods one after another. In this battle, Jung slipped to the corner of the hot spring too sneakily, relaxing his muscles while watching the show. It's really comfortable to take a hot spring after a tiring day. Just about to close his eyes comfortably, a voice like this suddenly came from behind Masada. It turned out that although the hot spring here is not a mixed bathing mode, there is only a wooden wall between men and women as a barrier. Coupled with Masada's outstanding hearing, you can naturally hear the laughter from the girl next door. Yu Guang suddenly saw a figure wrapped in a bathrobe. While everyone was not paying attention, he was quietly approaching the wooden wall, 353, and it was Mineta who didn't want to give up any chance. The opposite must be the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of heaven. Although it is a pity that it is not a mixed bath, I can't stand it anymore. In this case, anyone will forgive me. Don't worry, I won't forgive you. Just as Mineta was about to put his ears on the wooden wall, he suddenly found a shadow covering him completely. Haha, isn't this a regular wife? What can I do for you? Looking back, and seeing Masada with a malicious smile on his face, Mineta swallowed and moved back, and then he had leaned on the edge of the wall and couldn't retreat. What do you mean? Speak. Did I throw you out or did you go out by yourself? Ahaha, what are you talking about, Masada? I just came over to take a break. I don't know that the thoughts in my heart have been seen through. Minda Iodine smiled and wanted to do useless work. Seeing this, Masada didn't tell him much, and just picked him up and threw Mineta into the hot spring. Unfortunately, the students who had been busy in the hot spring for a long time and made some real fire. The movement range was even greater at this time, especially Kaminari, because his physique is the weakest in it, so the crime is also the most. Advertisement. By coincidence, Monetta's whereabouts was on the top of Kaminari's head. Kaminari, who had just got out of the water, saw a bud growing in his own eyes, and then. Puff. It is a great honor that Monetta has come to a soft landing this time. Ah, when his head came out of the water again, Kaminari made an unbearable voice, and then, his whole body was bursting with a golden electric current. For a moment, all the boys except Masada felt that their bodies were hit by electric shock sticks. My body is paralyzed and can't move. Hole. Kill you. Kill him. Let him know why the flowers are so red. Kaminari still has counts. The electric current released can only make people feel paralyzed. The people who have been slowed down instantly united and pointed the finger at him alone. What? Seeing Kaminari, who was being pressed by everyone and begging for mercy, Masada always felt that the scene before him was a bit chilly. After a while, the boys clamored and walked out of the hot spring, ready to go back to the dormitory to rest. After all, after fighting for a day, they were mentally exhausted. Because Lugu had some questions about body movement skills, he and Lugu came out relatively late. While sharing some of their own experiences with Green Valley, the two walked into the hall and happened to meet Mandalay Cat and Mrs. Lin, who were also just about to return to the room. Humph. Tai Tai, who was holding Mandela's cat's hand, immediately saw the faces of the two men on one side. He snorted and threw his hands away, and ran into the room alone. Advertisement. However, based on the fact that he is only 5 years old, Masada also said that he can understand it. That's right, ordinary children should like Hero S. Excuse me, why does Tai Tai have a deep prejudice against Hero S? I'm sorry, too, he doesn't seem to have a good impression of us, but after all, he is helpless in this world, so he has to stay with us. For Tai Tai, Hero S will only be disgusting thing. After listening to the Mandalay Cat, Lugu was speechless, and Masada was silent. People who have not experienced such things will not understand the thoughts of such people. Masada thinks that 4.8 years in this life are still happy and happy. He could not imagine the inner feelings of Tai Tai at that time. This makes the two of them a little strange. Masatai originally thought that Tai Tai would not want to see Hero S, but he did not expect that he would have such a big opinion on Hero S. This is rare in the current society. After all, this is a Hero S society. Seemingly worried about Kota, the Mandalay Cat also hurriedly returned to the room. Lugu didn't even bother to ask Masada for advice. The two went back to their rooms after they said separately. However, Masada does not agree with the method of declining. Masada has always felt that he cannot deny a class of people because of the mistakes of some people. This approach is extremely stupid, such as the professional Hero S. Scum, and the bad guys also have people who yearn for the light. When the Mandalay Cat heard the words, he was taken aback for a moment, and then he pondered for a moment, explaining to the two of them. Actually, Mitsui has a negative attitude towards Hero S. The Mandalay Cat moved his gaze to the door, as if he could see Kotai's figure through the door, but the children who are just sensible don't know this. After all, their parents are all of them, but the whole society still continues to preach. This is a commendable thing. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. 2 years ago, in order to protect the citizens, they were sacrificed under the claws of villains. This is the most heroic curtain call for Hero S, but Mandalay Cat is also a little helpless to his nephew, but she can understand the feelings of Tai Tai. With a wry smile, Mandalay Cat continued. My cousin, Kotai's parents are both Hero S, but both have died in the line of duty. Lu Jiyu was very concerned about this little bit, and asked in a puzzled way. This was really admirable. If he was beaten by the victim, maybe the little devil would not be able to get out of bed the next day. Chapter 164 Masada's Progress. Advertisement. Very sleepy. I want to sleep late. At 5:30 the next morning, the night has not completely faded. There are only a few rays of morning light on the horizon that herald the arrival of daylight, and everyone in Class A has been pulled out of the warm bed by Mr. Aizawa and put on gymnastics suits. On the square outside the house. Because it was too late last night, even after a simple wash, everyone still looked listless and yawned, especially Kaminari. Now his body is blue and purple, which makes people feel a little distressed. Good morning, Mr. Aizawa also has a negative appearance. The formal strengthening of the stay will begin today. The purpose of this stay is to enhance everyone's ability and obtain the temporary license. At this time, in order to face the more powerful the preparations made for hostility, so please be more attentive. Listening to the serious words of Mr. Aizawa, the sleepy eyes of the classmates also opened. When they heard the purpose of staying together, their mouths grew even more surprised. Hey, the provisional license will finally be available soon. Masada is also very excited. For those who are inspiring to become Hero S, the concept of temporary license is not unfamiliar, because this is a necessary condition for becoming Hero S. Only if you obtain a temporary license first, you can qualify for the formal examination. License. Then things are almost like this, Igarashi, you can throw this away. Seeing that the spirits of the students were all lifted up, Aizawa threw a sphere in his hand to Masada. Catching the thing thrown by Mr. Aizawa with one hand, she took a closer look. Isn't this the softball thrown during the entrance test? I remember your last record. Let me see, it is 2,248 meters, right? I don't know how far you can throw it now. Looking at Masada, who was eager to try, Mr. Aizawa embraced her arms and spoke in time. According to the situation of the previous years, the students will indeed grow after 3 months of enrollment, but these growths only stay on the spiritual and technical level, and there are physical improvements. But as far as quirk is concerned, there will not be much growth, because there is no systematic training. It was too smooth for Masada to walk this way, and Mr. Aizawa also wanted to take this opportunity to sharpen his spirit. Don't be too surprised then. Thinking like this in his mind, Aizawa-sensei was already ready to wait to see Masada's unbelievable expression. Advertisement. Then the volcano erupts. With a fierce shake of the hand, strong power gushed out from the hand, accompanied by the black smoke and pungent smell. The softball directly rolled up a sonic boom and flew towards the sky. After a long time, the sound of "dee" finally came from the instrument in Mr. Aizawa's hand. 4,286 meters. Looking at the number reported on the instrument in his hand, Mr. Aizawa wiped his somewhat dry eyes, and after confirming that he was not mistaken, he took a breath. I can't imagine the rapid progress of Masada's quirk, and the data is almost from the time of enrollment. Doubled. This distance is not bad. Masada nodded in satisfaction after hearing the count. After all, he couldn't even do elementalization when he first enrolled in school. It's amazing. As expected to be a madam. The progress is really great. I don't know how far I can throw. After seeing Masada's grades, the rest of the students couldn't resist the urge and wanted to give it a try. Next, Bakugo. Teacher Aizawa is a little speechless. Do these people think they can double the data? Why are they so excited? Hearing that it was his turn, Bakugo stretched his body excitedly. I have done a lot of things in the past 3 months. How can I throw a 2,000 meters away? His record when he enrolled was 705 meters. In order to prove that he was not too bad, he actually set the target at 2 kilometers. In a throwing posture, Bakugo has a confident smile on his face. Give me death. Boom. After a short while, Mr. Aizawa raised the instrument with a smug look on his face. Advertisement. 720 meters. Quote. Nani. The quirk intensive training is just what I want. Mr. Aizawa was also relieved at this time. If everyone's quirk has been greatly improved, the stay together will be meaningless. It didn't take long for the people from Class B to be here with their head teacher, Bradkin led. Originally, Class B still took part in the special training with a happy mood, and then, seeing the hell-like scenery in front of them, I want to escape. Boom also looked at Masada 353, and while sighing with Masada's improvement in strength, he also decided to temper himself even more. During the on-site internship, he knew that Masada would run to the training room whenever he had time. Excessive use of muscles will break muscle fibers and grow tougher fibers. The same is true for quirk. Continuous use will increase, and vice versa. Igarashi's situation, well, it may be a little special and not reproducible. As you can see, your quirk has not grown much. Speaking of this, Aizawa-sensei's face showed a malicious smile. It must be tired to death. So it's okay. Everyone, pay more attention, don't lose your life. Afterwards, the remaining classmates also conducted tests, and the results made them a little broken. Although their throw distances have increased, they have also increased by a few meters, which is completely incomparable with Masada. So starting from today, we will conduct intensive training on everyone's quirk. But this process. Not only Bakugo himself, but the rest of the classmates also yelled out in disbelief. This is too far from what they expected, and it shouldn't be. Everyone in Class A swallowed in an instant. You must know that the sequelae of overuse of quirk is very scary. TNT will vomit, Kaminari will become an idiot, and even the quirk of Masada has an upper limit. It's just that his upper limit is much higher than that of his classmates, so he didn't show it to Ben on weekdays. However, he is not a person who has been slumped. At this time, he has secretly vowed in his heart that he must improve in this kind of accommodation. Bakugo looked at his hands unwillingly. During the sports festival, his strength was not as good as that of Masada, and his improvement was so small. How can such a self surpass him? Immediately afterwards, under the guidance of Mr. Aizawa, everyone moved out the various props in the house, and then started their own training in this square. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Such a big gap was opened. Mr. Aizawa continued to explain to everyone. There is only one thing you have to do, and that is to break the limit. The active type with the upper limit of ability needs to increase the upper limit, and the abnormal type and other compound types must be carried out on the organs that spawn the quirk. Further exercise. Chapter 165. The deflated muscles are expensive. Advertisement. Soak his whole body in a bucket, and then alternately use flame and ice to keep the water in the bucket at a constant temperature, so as to strengthen his control of the quirk. Bakugo puts his hands in the boiling water to expand his own sweat glands. Kirishima keeps his whole body hardened, and then Ojiro beats himself with his tail. Kaminari keeps absorbing electricity and then discharging. Grape's scalp has begun to bleed, and the scene is very tragic. Yaoyorozu Bai's training is also very painful. While ingesting high-calorie food, she constantly creates various gadgets to adapt to this high-intensity creation of objects. Cha-Cha is even more miserable. She was stuffed into a transparent sphere, just like a hamster, keeping herself rolling around on the edge of the cliff under the condition of no gravity, to exercise her anti-vertigo and quirk. The maintenance time. Keep your eyes open and lock in here. When we need help, we will show up. No matter where we are, we will come dashing forward. Cute meow bazooka. Wild pussycats. Quote. Just when Masada wanted to apply for training with Mr. Aizawa, following the energetic words, the North American shorthair cats made their debut. Hey, there seems to be something wrong with the style. The two classmates in the four-member group are already familiar with each other, but the other two who are new on the stage are a little strange, so they also introduced themselves again. The quirk of the North American shorthair cat is earth flow, which can create terrain suitable for training. The Mandalay cat is telepathic, and can have spiritual conversations with acquaintances. The quirk of the puppet cat is search, as long as it is she can know all the information of the people she sees, even the location and weakness. Among them, the guy with the wrong style of painting, named Tiger, is a brother who is full of explosive muscles. He is said to be a brother, but in fact, the gender is not visible at all. With their hero, the clothing is really unsightly. Due to the secrecy of this stay, Xiangying couldn't arrange too many manpower, and the pussycat's quirk was very suitable for training, so 4 people were invited to take care of the 41 students on site. Our boot camp has officially started. Purely enhanced students, come to me to gather. The one who said this is the Tiger. He will use violence to let students experience the rupture of muscle fibers. Igarashi, follow along. Advertisement. Aizawa-sensei looked at the lady with a weird expression and said to him. Am I not an active type? As he asked with too much doubt, his original intention was to find a place to try to raise the temperature of his magma. Do you want to ruin this mountain? Shaking his head helplessly, Aizawa Shota said to him speechlessly, after all, the destructive power of Qingtai quirk is obvious to all, he doesn't want this mountain to be burned. This is okay, then I will go to participate in physical exercise. After thinking about it, it seems that what Mr. Aizawa said is reasonable. If you don't control it by then, the consequences will be more serious. It's better to see what good exercise methods there are for professional heroes here. Punch me. When he walked to the tiger, Masada saw Lugu surrounded by green light hitting the tiger. However, the tiger's body was in an extremely contorted posture, avoiding the attack, and then with a fierce counterattack, he beat Green Valley to the ground. His quirk is soft body, which can make the body very soft to complete actions that ordinary people can't complete. If this quirk is placed on a charming girl, it would be absolutely great, but if placed on a brother-in-law, Masada's mind could not help but reflect the image of King Billy. You guy over there, punch me too. Use your best strength. Several people were already lying down beside the tiger, and the others were also looking at the miserable appearance of their companions. Some shivered and did not dare to step forward. Masada walked out at this moment and was naturally named. Am I okay? It just so happens to see the strength of the professional hero S. Masada immediately became excited. To be honest, he has played against professional hero S only a handful of times. The school conducts more training than fighting, so when he encounters this situation, he can go all out. He ignited. Twisted his shoulders, stretched his body, Masada squeezed his fists tightly. You have to be careful. Advertisement. A presumptuous smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and Masada's fist hit the tiger's abdomen. Since it is for physical training, the quirk of magma is naturally not used, so both power and speed are several grades weaker than when it is shot too hard, but even so, the body has been polished like an indestructible jade. The strength shown by Masada is not comparable to that of ordinary students. So fast. This kid is a little clever. Before the fist arrived, the tiger felt the punching wind coming from the surface, but he was also experienced. When Masada's fist was about to hit him, his body twisted sharply, and his chest was sunken to the side. Although your fists are powerful, you are still tender. After avoiding Masada's attack, the tiger quickly counterattacked. As before, he hit the Masada chin with a very ordinary uppercut. Hey, that's not necessarily true. Masada saw the tiger who was already showing a smug smile, and smiled strangely. The straightforward arm suddenly swept away, and the tiger was blown away with great force. Boom. With great strength, the tiger's body actually broke 2 trees in a row before stopping. Rikido, who was just hitting this blow, can be seen. Even, good Lihao, there is such an operation. The tiger who got up from the sawdust clutched his chest, speaking in disbelief. You know, when you punch with all your strength and your strength has not been relieved, it is difficult to suddenly change direction. There will be a stiff stage. The tiger also grasps this point, and dares not attack Masada defensively. Who knew that Masada had overcome this and beat him by surprise? It's very strong, it's on par with me. No, maybe the strength is stronger than me. Feeling the pain in his chest, Hu murmured to himself, he is a fitness expert, and he can't say much about the strength of his body. I didn't expect a high school student to reach this level, which is really shocking. The huge movement coming from here naturally attracted everyone's attention. When seeing the injured tiger and Masada standing there with an apologetic smile, everyone in Class A and Class B only felt that they were dreaming.